Nemesis, lovely to speak with you. The last time I spoke to you was in a dingy little Korean. Well, it wasn't dingy. That's rude. It was quite a nice apartment in Korea, and you were staying with Dazukil. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And Dazukil did the weird thing where he basically refused to come out of the apartment. He refused to come out of his room the entire time because he didn't want anyone to see what his face looked like. Do you remember that as well?
Well, it's not just that. He actually didn't go outside of his apartment even in on days where like nobody was there, you know? Like there were like multiple days where he just didn't go outside his room. Like he was very fed up with the solo queue and depressed, you know?
So you were kind of looking after him in that way.
A little bit.
That's fair enough. I mean, what's the allure of hanging out with someone like him? Because I know he's quite a good friend of yours. Is when you hang out with someone like him, does it make you feel like you're even more outgoing than you are normally? Because it's like it can't get
Not
much
really.
worse. Can't get much worse than him, I suppose.
I don't know. I feel like I mean we're both kind of introverted, so we get along easily. We're both like just league players, so we have something in common, right? I don't know. It was fine.
That's fair enough. And obviously, Hazmat, if you're watching this video, if you do want to just make an entire video out of this interview, just to ask for permission first, at least. I don't know if you remember the last time we did this. He literally made a video. What was the video he made? It was called "How Fnatic Ruined Nemesis's Career,"
Oh,
and it was literally just the entire our interview all together in one
I
video.
mean, he was working with what he had, you know? You know what I mean? Like there wasn't a lot of content out there regarding that.
So there's going to be a new video now, how LR saved Nemesis's career. That's going to be the basis of this interview. And I suppose that's where we'll start, because the last time we spoke, we kind of had a conversation about things that had happened in your career, issues you'd had in Fnatic. It was quite a shining light on some things that maybe you hadn't spoken about. And sort of since then, you've been someone who's kind of sat on the proverbial fence of the market, not taking any offers. From what I've heard, it's always been a thing of you've had offers. You know, there's been some rumors of some FlyQuest offers. There's been some rumors of some C9 offers. There's been some, I can't even remember what it was in Europe. I won't speculate. I'm sure you can if you want. You can reveal.
Fatality and Heretics, for example.
Okay, you're coming right out of the gate. Fair enough. I respect it. But yeah, you've always been sitting on the fence, and it's always been a thing of not getting right in unless it's the right project. And lots of people, that's led to people being like, well, who is he to demand the top two project? Who is he to demand the project that can win? And you kind of you sat out of the conversation for a while, but you've come back for an ERL project no less, which is considerably lower than at least the tier of competition. But you're back. Talk to me about how you arrived at this decision.
Where did I even begin? Um, I mean, Eller is like, you know, a very special thing. It's not just a tier 2 ERL team, right? It's a very special thing where I'm playing with players that I want to play with, and I think the whole thing is very beautiful, and it like matches also because it's not that competition is the number one thing in our team, it's actually streaming. I'm pretty sure we're more of a content team first and then competition second. So it's like, and also nobody has ever done this really to the extent that we have in the scene. It's like kind of first of it. So yeah, I just thought this was a lot better. Kind of doesn't change my life in a lot of ways. Can still do most of the things that I want to do, and I just thought this was like a really cool thing. Like, yeah, I think a lot of people would do the same probably in my position.
An interesting angle I wanted to explore on this, because there's a one thing that I think people know about you but wouldn't immediately jump at is you're not actually like the most content adverse person that you would assume, at least when you're on a team. Like you're quite introverted, which naturally for a content guy at an org is like a nightmare for people. But you had a really close relationship with Pete from Fnatic, who did all of their content there. Is that where you kind of gained this appreciation for doing things content first, at least in a team environment?
I don't think it's because of him. I think it's just my mindset that professional players need to be entertainers. Like uh, ultimately, League of Legends as a game, as a professional player, I think your number one thing should be actually to entertain. It shouldn't be actually to be good at the game. I think entertainment is more important than competition, which is maybe a hot take. Um, So basically, this is why I have from the beginning, try to like maybe create a little bit of a persona, and then like do the, for example, I had some ideas of like shouting out sponsors a lot, how like the OnePlus meme began back then. Yeah, I just think it's very important for a professional player. I think it's like an orc's nightmare if a professional player doesn't do anything and is just there and you don't even know anything, which is what's happening all across like LEC or LCS or whatever. There's so many players that you don't even literally know anything about them. It's horrific. And I think if you're not capable of doing any content, then maybe you shouldn't be a professional player, honestly. You're just less valuable then, at least in my eyes. Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Does that not run? I mean, I guess you've provided a bit of anecdotal evidence for the kind of that thought process being present, at least from the Fnatic days, because I do remember the OnePlus memes and stuff like that. It does show a degree of self-awareness towards that aim. But it seems that you've become stronger in your ideals towards this, at least, because I remember the whole thing about going to career was, fuck all of you, I'm going to go prove myself. And consistently competition was a priority to you. It seems that it wasn't always I'm an entertainer first. Definitely there was an element of that, but it seems that you put entertainer first. What prompted that change?
Yeah, I would say that at the beginning, like before I even became a pro, I was conflicted between trying to be a streamer and trying to be a pro. And then it went in the direction of trying to be a pro, so I was focusing on that for like a whole year, and I wasn't really like being an entertainer or anything. Like for example, the first time I joined Mad Lions, I wasn't really doing a lot to be an entertainer back then. And then I think somewhere along the line, my mindset has shifted because I guess learned a lot more things and changed my mind and viewed things differently over time. And nowadays, like of course it's cool that you have some players here and there that are like very hidden and very like I don't just compare it to league players, you can look at like a singer or like a rapper, like anything, like all of them have different personas. Some of them are like very hidden and mysterious, some of them they just tweet anything and people love it. Like for example, someone like Magnus Carlsen, you can watch like an interview of him and everything he does is just so fucking funny all the time. Like so you kind of need to like decide what suits you and then go from there. And for example, me being what I am on stream is not something that was just done overnight, right? It was trained upon and learned upon and taken inspiration from a lot of other people. That's just how humans are, I guess.
Absolutely, and it's interesting you talked about kind of the development of a persona in regards to kind of your character that you not a character necessarily. I suppose it's an embellishment and an exaggeration of who you are. But that was a very interesting thing for me the first time I spoke to you, because the first time we interviewed, I didn't know you that well. I'd spoken to you a little bit, but that was the first time I really had a long conversation with you. And one of the things I was trying to get to grips with is who is the real Nemesis, because we talked about in that interview, but you're so like guarded, you're not overtly emotional. There's obviously a lot of emotion in what you do, but it's not like overt and easy to read. So, and now it feels like in that interview, it was 2 hours of me trying to get out of you who's the real Nemesis. And it's quite ironic that 2 years later, plainly in the first 5 minutes, you're willing to say a lot of this is a persona. What prompts that change? Because it's a very, for me at least, out the gate, it's a very marked difference.
Okay, not a lot of it is a persona. I wouldn't say like a lot of
Sure.
it is a persona, but some things are, and I don't think this only applies to me. I
My
think this
my
applies
point
to
my point
everybody.
my point was more so you're more willing to talk about the character and what lives inside rather than 2 years ago.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe I just wasn't, uh, you know, that. Maybe I just wasn't that speakative. I don't know what word to use. That's probably not a word.
Talkative.
Yeah. Back then, and I also think on that day when we did the interview, I wasn't like at my 100%, honestly. Um, but that's a different topic. Um, yeah, I guess things evolve over time.
Absolutely. Cool. So we talked about kind of the reasons for choosing LR being very obvious, but as for the selection, you talk about players you wanted to play with. Talk to me about some of these suggestions, because I think I'm right in assuming, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you sort of did operate as this kind of a pseudo GM for this roster, didn't you?
Yeah, I would say I did. Yeah. I mean, it started off with me, Caedrel, and Baus because this is the core, right? And then we had to look at like all the options, and then to be honest, the options are very limited. Like for example, ADC, there was mostly discussions between Jack, Spectre, and Crowny, right? For example, and I think both are good options. I pushed a little bit more towards Crowny side because obviously I have personal experience working with him. I don't have any experience working with Jack Spectra. I have to go with what the public says, and that can often be wrong. Um, and he adds like a layer of content that this team fulfills like needs, right? Like everybody does, honestly. And then like for jungle, it was also mostly between Velia and Natinat. And for example, I was looking at some statistics because I have like a friend that does like a lot of these statistics that people use these days to scout, LEC players, whatever, like whoever that right is. And looking at like Velia and Natina, they were like literally even in like statistics. You wouldn't even be able to tell who's
Slightly
like better or
different
not.
profiles because I remember I've seen some of the things. It's like Natty has a more econ-based profile, whereas Velia makes up for it in sort of damage and kind of aggression profiles. So I think they're kind of ranked similarly on the matrix, so to speak, but slightly different
I don't
profiles.
like fully remember, but I just remember back then that it was like very similar basically. Like you couldn't
Yeah.
really tell. And in my mind, I was like, okay, they have slightly different champion pools. Natinat can, for example, play Ringer Munda like 50 times better than Velia, and just like obvious examples, right? Velia plays some champions better than Natinat. So okay, you have a little bit of a different champion pool. You don't know what's going to be meta in league because it's always changing. And then the last thing was like I felt like Velia was just more of an outgoing person, like more extroverted, and I think this team needs that more than another introvert because everyone else is kind of introverted. So I thought like Velia Baus fulfilled that gap well with like laughs and jokes and memes and stuff. And the more positive side. Not sure if Natinat would fulfill that. Like I don't know him, right? I knew Velia like a little bit better at that point. And then for Reckless, it was just like I literally just messaged Casual one day and was like, I don't know who to take for support. Maybe Reckless will play. I don't know. So Casual just messages him, and then like a few days later, Reckless like, okay, yeah, I will play. Um, that's how it went down because like again, I wish we had like more options on the market, but literally I was choosing between like two players on every role. Like the options were very limited.
Yeah, to be fair, that was the one time where I felt like I actually rated myself at building teams because I literally, when you guys were assembling LR, I had Caedrel message me and ask me about both Natty and Alaric, who obviously they're both players I kind of brought to their first competitive team. So I will admit there was a part of me that was like, yeah, I must be doing a good job over here. Got 2 out of 5 right at least. That's like literally more than most LEC GMs do. They normally only get one
True,
right. So.
true.
You went with Velia over Natty. Obviously very green as a player, very new to it. I hate this narrative that you guys tried to spread that he's like he only played ERL for fun. This guy played like 8 fucking EBL splits with like people that like with orgs and stuff like this. So he clearly had a bit of experience, but in any case, for tier one competition or like the level that you guys bring to it, he's obviously had a lot to learn. How did you go about those early days with him? Because obviously you were doing on-stream scrims, but there must have been a thing where you had to speak to him and be like, "Well, listen, mate, this is how we play."
I mean, over time, right? I don't think it all happened in one day.
Sure.
I would say he was mostly the coach's focus, honestly, because I think the coaches were mostly focusing throughout the year on like Velia Baus for like obvious reasons, right? Like the other three don't need as much because we already been doing this for so long. I mean, obviously, there's the famous meme "Blame Velia," which has been happening a lot, right? Everyone knows that. Um, but obviously, everything is in good faith or spirit or whatever. Like, because the problem is that as much as this is a content team, the problem is that we kind of need to keep winning because as people, like with the bigger it grows and the expectations keep rising. So then us as players, we need to start stepping up and we need to like start playing better, which is not easy because we're also playing in an environment that is not the best. And then we also have to scream everything we do, so we share everything publicly, and then the screams that we get are also very limited because we can only scream the teams that actually are willing to scream on stream on whatever
Yeah.
scream on stream.
Yeah.
So there are like obvious challenges that happen along the way.
Absolutely. And do you think how much does that play into it? Because for me, that's probably the most to give you credit where credit's due, obviously begrudgingly because you're my competitors this year. I think that's the most impressive aspect of LR, and I wonder if you agree. The fact that you're able to win despite having all of your information out there publicly all of the time. Do you take additional pride in that, or do you just view it as part of the job?
I think it is impressive, but I cannot think about those things. I have to keep thinking about how to win. So I don't really like, I just have to it's just part of the job, yeah.
And what were your expectations going into it? Because I can presume you don't have to be humble with me. Obviously, you thought you were going to completely dog walk the NLC, I'd assume. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But in
Yeah.
the minute you saw we got Hums instead of Jack Spectre, you knew it was a done deal.
I mean, I don't know if that's true because Hums ended up being like,
He did
one
actually
of the
end up
better
being
players
one of the better players.
a lot of the times, so
Except
as much as
we won't forget the Varus thing he did on the turret that got us dropped to the lower bracket. It's all good. You're forgiven, Hums. All good. As for NLC, obviously your expectations would have probably been set very early on, just even based off of two names. But EMEA, double champion, competing all the way up till semis in the final one. Did you think that level of success could be achieved in the year?
trying to remember like what I actually thought back then. I honestly like I don't even think I was thinking that we're gonna win or anything. I was just thinking, let's just do our best. Like that's what I was thinking. Like just prepare for every opponent, do our best. Let's see where we go. I wasn't even like having an expectation in my mind, I think.
That's interesting because obviously for you a big part of coming into competition that's going to play out is this whole thing of naturally you're going to be a victim to this thing of you've been such a question mark for so long. It's like you go to Korea, you're doing so well. What was the highest rank you achieved on the Korean server? I think you were like
Rank 2.
rank 2 at one point. Obviously Natty's done better than you now, so maybe.
Role difference. He's playing jungle, I'm playing mid lane.
I thought Korea was famous for their mid laners.
I mean, don't they say the same thing about EU?
I'm rage baiting you. Don't fall for that one. You almost got Valiant there. That was crazy. But in any case, what I was saying is, you went to Korea, you got this high rank. People are looking at you. I'm watching. I mean, I remember at the time, I'm watching VODs of you laying against Chovy. He's having the best of you sometimes, but there's days where you're battering all of the top mids. Showmaker, BDD, Chovy, Faker. You're playing them every day in solo queue, and at least in that environment, showing that there's not that you can compete in that conversation. So there's such a massive question mark on you when you inevitably come back to competition. How much pressure was there on you? Because it was like quite a light environment previously. I remember you played in like streamer tournaments, and people were like, "Nemesis is so 1v9," but it's like you're playing as a bunch of factory workers and like
Sure.
streamers.
But that's the thing, right? Like, okay, so this narrative is now created against me, and this expectation is now set against me. So now, from my perspective, I have to go to a good team. Like, I can only join a good team. If I don't join a good team and I join a bad team, and even if I'm the best performing player, my career is shot in the foot. And I'm and that's what happens to other LEC players. They go like, whatever, they join a team for a year, they have to perform. If they don't, they're out, and then their career is done. It happens so many times. So that's what plays into it, like, you know.
You say that,
So,
but
but
you say
lucky
that,
for
but
me,
sorry, go on.
I have the choice of being a shimmer, which I think is a better choice between playing and shimming.
You say that your career, you go in the LEC, you play for a year, you have to do well, and if you don't, you're out. I want to believe you, but leader's back in LEC, isn't he? So maybe that's not true.
Yeah, I guess if MikyX invites me to, no, I'm kidding. Um, yeah, I mean, maybe he just got lucky. Like, most people would not get this many chances as leader did, in my opinion.
What's
And I don't mean this as a flame or anything like that.
No, it's fair. It's just your opinion. Did Mickey reach out to you about the mid position?
He did actually a couple of times.
And obviously for you, presumably that's a pretty quick no, or did you have to think about it?
No, I think MikyX would be probably my number one player I would like to play with, because I've never played with him like in a real team ever. And like, for example, if the Olympics happen and we're playing in the same team, I mean, I think that would be like a dream come true for me.
Yeah, that would be very, very exciting to watch. Who would be the who do you got? Because I know it's you, Crowny, and Mickey, right? You're all Slovenian. Who would be jungle and top? I don't know actually.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of options. I'm actually not sure about jungle, but top usually we have like Kektz.
Kektz,
He's
yeah.
like a Slovenian
He's about
player. I
30,
think I
he's
think he would
35, isn't he?
probably. He's around 30. Yeah, a sad career. Honestly, could have been a big star. Honestly,
That's fair enough. And what sorry, just I feel like I don't want to skip past that. Why was his career sad?
because back in the early days of like season 1, 2, 3, he was like genuinely insanely good. At some point, he was even like substituted for Fnatic on the Huni Reign over roster. He was really good back then.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't know that about him. I just know him for playing. I think he played in the NLC actually a few years ago. He played for
Yeah,
Riddle,
he
I believe.
probably did. He played for a lot of ERL teams over the years.
Yeah, he played for Team Riddle, I believe, with I won't be able to remember now, but anyone who's got deep ERL ball knowledge will know what I'm talking about. I wanted to ask you a question. We're both friends with Mickey. I adore Mickey. He's a lovely person. But level with me as friends here. He's got a worm in his brain. In regards to he's very smart about the game. There's obviously the famous clip that's gone viral on Twitter and Reddit of me laughing in his face when he said he wanted to get Wunder and leader on Fnatic. Where do you think the cognitive dissonance is for him in regards to being a GM? Because I've never seen someone be so smart towards the game and so smart in most aspects of life, but then have this kind of blind spot. What do you
You're
think?
just
What?
trying to clip farm, huh?
Well, I think it's an interview.
Well,
All of it's clip farming.
true. Well, I don't know. What am I supposed to say? I mean, I'm good friends with him too, but I don't necessarily agree with the decisions he's doing. But, I guess if he's so convinced, then I think it's also fair to see, like, if he ends up being right or wrong. Because, for example, I was delusional about some players back in the days too, where I thought they were bigger or whatever than they were. I feel like, we're humans. I'm not saying that he's wrong or something. Like, I'm saying is that as much as people meme on him right now and everything, and maybe, I'm also gonna laugh at some of these jokes that are being posted online,
Yeah.
I'm still gonna, like, actually wait and see what's gonna happen. At least, give him the due diligence, I
Due
think is the
diligence,
way
benefit of the doubt, either of
yeah.
those. I mean, for me, it's the thing. I mean, that was the thing I was confused about. I mean, I suppose you can't do anything once the clip is out, but like, lots of people were like tagging me on Twitter or like doing it on Reddit. It was like the reason I'm comfortable laughing in his face like that is like we're good mates. Like I find it hilarious that he's that delusional. But I obviously want him to do well. Like I'm also like there's obviously like a pragmatic worry of like if he doesn't do well, he's going to be in a pretty bad spot. It's like I don't wish that on him. So it's like I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like you can only warn someone so many times. He's been telling me that that's the roster he wants for like the last like probably
No,
since
but like
2 years.
narratives are so strong because, like, think about it back in time. Like, there's a split where people are calling MikyX like the best support and placing him over Carrier or something, best Western player, whatever the narratives were back then.
Yeah,
Then like a year passes and people are saying he's dog shit and he's washed up and he needs to retire. Then a year passes and then he's like again joins G2 and wins again, and people are again the GOAT Western support. And then now, like, I guess the narrative right now is that he's just inviting washed up friends to, his own roster, and he's sprinting it down or whatever. I don't know. Like, maybe in a year the narrative is gonna be again that he's just a god.
yeah, I agree with you. The narratives are what prevails. It's so like fickle. Fickle's the word I would use. It changes at literally the most shallow blow of wind. It feels like. But I hope he does well. What do you think that roster maxes out at? Like, if it really goes well, and because there is a certain idea that like because they're all mates, it makes things easier. What do you think they can
That's
max out
true. I
of?
mean, I think it's like underrated, right? Like, if people want to play together and actually like friends outside the game, that's like very underrated, I think, because most of esports rosters, people are coworkers, they're not friends. But where do I think it maxes out? I don't know. I would say like top 4 maybe is like the max I can see it. If everything really clicks well, I can see it.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. And then talk to me about, we'll go back to, because we went on a little tangent there about Mickey, because obviously it's the last guest we had on as well. And obviously we're both friends with him. But going back to LR, playing an NLC, how, like, because obviously you had an idea of it going in, and it's one of those things where it's like no matter where you guys went, I remember it was a thing where I was hearing the rumor was between you guys either going to NLC or like the Serbian league. Was that a thing at one point when you were making the decision?
Not really, honestly. A lot of these things are like a little bit fake reported or fake spread. It was like just maybe like an option to think about, but it wasn't anything set in stone or anything like that.
Interesting. But when you go to the NLC, how much did you actually know about the league? Because it's one of those things where it's like no matter where you go, you're going to generate viewership. You could literally start your own league and just play your own games and it would get viewership, for example. But when you were playing in the NLC, how much did you know about it? Because did you know that the level was going to be potentially as low as it was?
Still almost nothing. Like the level is judged by what the rosters are on the teams, right? But I don't know. I didn't know much about NAC. I mean, I just like kind of know what people say, and people say it's like one of the weaker leagues and this and that. But now looking at back now, like now that it's like 3 splits have been played, like I think NAC was like a fantastic league for a lot of reasons, and I would say the main reason was that we had in-person events for every final. Like I think no other ERL had that. Like that's just a massive upgrade.
Well, I think we all know how they managed to do that. Don't think it had anything to do with the league, mate. I think mostly to do with you. But over the course of the split, how do you? I suppose my question and what I'm leading into is how do you deal with just kind of? It sounds like I'm glazing, but it's just is reality. Like, how do you deal with being that much above other teams? Because I suppose it's a kind of an even more macrocosmically larger version of what G2 has to deal with, where it's like, do you deal with fatigue? Do you deal with boredom not being consistently pushed when you play your officials? Because it's like you can grind all these days in scrims. Maybe you play some decent ERL teams, and then you log on and you play against 3 kids who are getting paid by the government to go and do school. One guy who works in a factory, and then like one guy's unemployed, and it's just like how do you stay motivated throughout that? I suppose.
I, I don't experience boredom because of who I'm playing against. I experience boredom because of Riot, because of their balance team. I genuinely think ever since they introduced Fearless mode, they balance around competitive even less than before. And even before, it was like very tough as a professional player. Now, the thing is, like, if you only play solo queue all day as a streamer, then you're even more bored. The fact that you can actually mix solo queue with like scrims and some competitive games makes you actually less bored. But yeah, it's mostly like, first of all, when you play best of ones and it's not fearless, you want to go sleep. Second of all, if you play best of 3 and it's 2-0 in fearless, you want to go sleep. And you're just waiting for like this game 4, game 5 fearless, because this is the thing that ultimately makes it fun for you, because you have to literally pick the same team comp in first 2 games of fearless every time, because they don't balance the game. I mean, I literally just had to play 12 months of Azir being literally the best mid lane champ in the game, and then at Worlds they like fake nerf it and it's still the #1 mid lane pick.
It seems like you've got a lot of opinions about Riot, given that question had nothing to do with Riot,
About their
and
balance team, definitely.
it was really impressive there that question didn't actually have anything to do with Riot, and then suddenly you just
Wait, what did you ask?
No, it's
Oh,
fine.
wait.
I like that we went in this direction, but it was very funny to me that you went, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but also fuck Riot, and then it's about fix your fucking game.
So wait, no, but I was partially answering your question. Basically, I don't really experience boredom because of
Yeah,
like NSC or anything like that, and I don't try to like. At least I can speak for myself. I'm not sure how it is for my other teammates, but I can't just like think I'm above everyone else and we're
for
gonna
sure.
win every game and this is so free and blah 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 blah. Like I have to be humble and have to take it like team after team, and we have to
hmm
win at the end of the day. Like of course, when it's playoffs, you're probably gonna try a little bit more just to make sure that you win. And it is an exhausting schedule, because when you're like the winning team, then you actually usually have to play the most games and you have to usually take do the most things. And then on top of that, we have to be streamers, and we have like it is very tiring schedule. It's not easy, but I guess that's why we're here.
Absolutely. And one thing I wanted to ask is, you were talking about like criticism of potentially fearless and how it doesn't really. For me, I always like I've had conversations with you about this off stream. For me, fearless is just like a placebo band-aid for a wider problem. It's like if you don't incentivize people to play more champions, it's like for example the whole thing. Do you remember back in the day people used to play like at least 3 or 4 roles in solo queue because you just like whoever
Mhm.
connected to solo queue first like played got their role. So you like would play at least like 30% of your games a year on other roles, which means that you like would play understand more roles and then inevitably people end up being better. There's like a famous anecdote. The reason why MikyX plays support and ended up being the best support is because his internet in his little village was so shit that he would connect last to champ select and he would have to play support. Point being, fearless to me is a placebo fix to creativity because you don't actually incentivize people to play more champions. What's your comment on that? And do you think there's a solution for
I
it?
mean, I think you do incentivize more champions in a way because you actually need to be able to be like you need to be able to play more champions in like this game 4, game 5s when all your champions are out. You need to be able to play something on a decent level. But I agree with you. It's not like a fix to the game. It's definitely more of a like a side fix that works, but more needs to be done. And on the mention of like players playing more roles or whatever, I agree with you. Like for example, I used to be at some point a top main and a support main and an ADC main, um, and then a mid main, right? And only jungle I didn't play because I don't fundamentally like the role. But for example, maybe off topic, but one tricking is way too OP. Like one tricking is just way too incentivized in League. Like just for like your average solo queue player or for like streamers or anything, like in high elo, like one tricking is just too rewarding in League of Legends.
Talk to me about that because Europe is sort of the one trick region.
I mean, I think every region is a one trick region. I would assume.
I don't think so. I think Europe we're kind of known for our one tricks now. I mean, quite famously, lots of our players go over to Europe and get very very high ranks playing their one tricks.
Isn't that just because we have bigger player pool? Maybe I'm not sure. Like I'm pretty sure there's a lot of one tricks on Korea too.
Yeah, no, there definitely is, but I think in Korea there's also the degree of kind of cultural uniformity and stuff like that, which means that they don't really go outside of the box in regard. I mean, LS was talking about this the other day, like builds and stuff like this. Kind of he was talking about
Yeah.
PZ Zhang and players like this are kind of the only ones who break out of that mold of that sometimes. So I kind of what you're saying that you don't necessarily agree with one tricking, but it does lead to the highest level on some champions existing, no?
Yeah, I'm not saying that one tricking, like all one tricking is bad. I'm just saying like for climbing specifically, one tricking I think is just too overpowered.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was trying to like make my point.
So what do we do then? We put Phyllis in solo queue?
No, I think you, for example, should maybe increase the amount of bans to 2. Or maybe you should, yeah, because like for example, if one tricks are banned out and you, for example, nerf dodging, then they will be forced to learn more champions.
What's your general kind of opinion? I'm sure you've given it at some point, but I can't quite remember it right now. What is your general opinion on dodging?
I mean, I understand why it's in the game, but I also understand that like if somebody like already like champions like takes so long in League and then somebody dodges last second, it's a waste of like nine other people's time. And I also understand like it's a tough problem to solve because like draft is so important in League and some games are very one-sided in draft, and then in high elo you have like autofills versus no autofills, so the game is very imbalanced a lot of times and one-sided. I'm not sure. I ultimately think that maybe the game will be healthier if they remove dodging, but I also know that, by removing dodging, new problems will arise.
And what do you think about this new streamer mode they've added? Because I've been playing an Emerald recently, and I've got 3 people on my team. Apparently, Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and Angelina Jolie. Like, I don't know who these people think they are.
Honestly, like, this is probably unpopular opinion, but I think the Shimmer mode is great. I'm very for the Shimmer mode, and I'm very for, like, Anonymous Champion Select. I think they add more positives than the negatives to the game. And the only problem I have with Shimmer mode is that it's called Shimmer mode. It should not be called Shimmer mode. It should be called Anonymous mode, because a lot of people think that this mode is designed for Shimmers, but it's not. It's designed for everyone.
That's quite interesting though, because I mean, I've heard some streamers say they like it, some not. Does it not detract away from the entertainment process? Say, for example, Worlds is in Europe, you're queued up against Faker. Do you not want that for the YouTube video? I'm playing against Faker. I suppose in post you can get it, but you're not going to have that reaction in the game.
Understand what you mean? Like, for example, a lot of people think League should have voice chat. I think voice chat would add more negatives to the game than positives, so I'm against it. Even though voice chat would actually benefit me because I'm a streamer. Voice chat would add way more content to streamers, so it would actually benefit streamers. Um, but yeah, back to like the streamer mode. I agree that sometimes it does something negative, like the example you're giving, which is that you don't know that you're playing against Faker. Yeah, it has negatives, but I also think it does a lot of positives.
And you think the positives outweigh the negatives?
I do, yeah.
Interesting. So we talked about dodging, we talked about streamer mode there. Um, in terms of, I think one of the major discourse points for me, and obviously you're someone that you didn't go to boot career as like part of like some boot camp, streaming marketing scheme. You lived there, you worked there for a while. Talk to me about the kind of narratives, because at least for me it seems nowadays, yes, there are lots of people going there and doing really well, but career solo queue potentially isn't all it's hyped up to be, at least in comparison to before. Still of a higher quality than it is here, but can you talk to me about like kind of the dream of that, and then what the actual reality is there for people that are interested?
I'm not sure if you understand your question, like the dream of going to
So
Korea.
lots of people nowadays have this thing of like, I'm gonna go to, I mean, it's a big thing for streamers. They go to Korea, they play solo queue. There's a lots of things about how it's higher quality, there's better players, which are all true. But at least to me, it seems that like, at least when it was like, like season 7, season 6, even season 8, it seemed like that was a time where it was a lot more prominent, these kind of ideas. And even times when you went, which I think would have been in, is it season 10, season 11? I wondered if you could
Season
talk to
10,
me
yeah,
about
season 11.
how it's changed since then, and whether some of these kids are going for something that's more of a dream that doesn't necessarily exist.
Okay, so first of all, a lot of streamers who go to Korea nowadays, they actually say that Korea solo queue is worse than EU. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't agree, and I definitely think that Korea has like their solo queue quality has pummeled. Back when I first went to solo queue, it was way higher quality than it is these days. But I still think it's ultimately slightly better. But regardless of this, um, I kind of got lost in what the question was again.
It's no worries, I can repeat it. So we're talking about how Korean solo queue has changed from back then, because lots of people are going there and they look at it, it's like gold, this is like golden city that they go to. You go to Korean solo queue, it's like golden city. And I was kind of maybe talking to you about how that's kind of a bit more of an illusion. It's a bit more of a mirage these days. That's probably a better way of saying it.
Yeah, I think most people go to Korea because it will boost their viewership, and it's easier to title like your YouTube videos. And Korea has this like narrative that like the server is really prestigious and you're gonna play against all the pros and people are really good. So it's easy like viewership boost. I think that's why most people do it. Yeah. Um,
But if someone wanted to be a pro, I'll help you out, don't worry. If someone wanted to be a pro player in the same way
mhm.
that potentially you went out there to like really, sharpen the blade, so to speak. That's not a masturbation innuendo. Um, if you wanted to go and sharpen the blade in Korea, do you still think an aspiring pro player should go and do the boot camps that some of these younger players are doing?
That's a good question. I am not sure. Because I feel like if you go to Korea for like 2 weeks, which a lot of like LEC pros do, right? Like, for example, like like an LEC team is doing really badly, and then one of their players goes to Korea, and then like their fans are like hype. Look at this guy! He went to Korea for like 2 weeks to practice, and he's so much more hardworking than the rest of his teammates. Yeah, I mean, I think going to Korea for 2 weeks is probably absolutely useless. And I don't think it really does a lot, but sure,
Do you think
it's
there's a
probably American.
correlation? Do you think there's a correlation between people who do that to solve problems, and then also people who watch Naruto as kind of like a therapy?
What the hell does that mean?
Sorry, I'll move. I had to put a troll question in there sometime. My bad. Sorry, carry on. You're gonna have to give me a minute to refocus.
Okay. Wait, what
Uh,
was I saying?
um,
Yeah. So Korea. Is it worth going to Korea if you're an aspiring pro player? I mean, depends what your goals are, I guess. If you have like nothing to do for 6 months and you want to just go there for like a long period of time, yeah, maybe. If you really think you got it and you can afford it and all the things are there, then yeah, probably still worth. Yeah.
And what was it like living in Korea for you? Because you are someone that very clearly likes your own environment, you like your routine and stuff like this. How long did it take you to get used to what was it like in Korea? Because I remember going there for the first time. I'm quite intrepid as a person, like I like new experiences, but I remember feeling quite scared when I was there for the first time. There's so much is like locked to your phone number. That's something that people maybe don't know about Korea. If you go to Korea for the first time, you can't do fucking anything unless you get like a phone number. There's ways around it, but once you get there, it's like really scary.
I,
So how did you adapt to
I
it?
I don't think it's as scary these days. I think it was really scary back then when it was peak COVID, which is when I
Mm,
went. Like I was like the only foreigner there, you know. Like people were looking at me in the street because it was peak COVID. Like nobody was there besides, you know, the people who live there. And how was it like there? I mean, I got kind of lucky in a way because like, you know, I was under Gen G and then also with LS with T1 in a way. So they took care of me like fully, kinda. Like, you know, good enough to the point where I don't have any complaints. And I'm also I don't require a lot, I guess, as a human, you know. So I mean, my experience has been great. The only thing that I struggled with there, which hits every boot camper at some point, I've noticed, is that when you're there for like 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks and you're only eating junk food, it really gets to you. Like you start deteriorating completely mentally. You can't focus anymore on your solo queue games. This was like my biggest problem was diet actually, because I'm pretty sure I was deficient in every vitamin possible. Like I was like half a functioning human, and my sleep schedule was going to sleep at like 8 a.m. You know, because I was trying to stream for EU uh,
yeah.
people, so it was completely cooked at some point. Like this was by far my biggest nightmare, and I see like every boot camper who goes to Korea struggles with the same thing. It all hits them well. Like they play well the first week and two, and then it just hits them. And then
Uh,
they think the solo queue is trash, but it's actually just them.
It's probably why Natty's done so well actually, because he actually eats pretty good and he goes to the gym and stuff like this. There might be a
Yeah,
correlation there. Um,
probably.
there's kind of a history of you with bad dieting under stressful environments. I know it's ironic looking at me because I'm morbidly obese, me criticizing you for your diet. You're allowed to laugh at that. But you had a issue at Worlds. Was it Worlds 2021? The one that was in China. I remember you were
2020.
eating 2020. You were eating like Kit Kat and rice. That was like your main meal for a time. Is there like I remember that was obviously down to a lot of other different things. I think that was during COVID, I want to say as well.
Yeah, it was during
And it was
COVID.
it was leading to issues like that. Um, what kind of stuff were you eating in Korea? Is it literally like you were saying, just junk food?
I mean, yeah, I was like mostly ordering food, and most of the food that you can order. I mean, basically, I was ordering things that I were kind of safe for me. You know, I didn't like explore a lot, and you know, also like the app I was using, I think wasn't like the mainstream app in Korea. Like the mainstream app is like Korean, but I can't read Korean, right? And you know, I mean, it's not like that I don't know how to eat or have a bad diet. It's just that, you know, in Korea I was kind of struggling because of language barrier, I would say, and then you know back in China I
No,
was
I was
struggling
I wasn't I
because
wasn't trying to spread a narrative that you have an eating disorder. I was just potentially trying to say there's a correlation between high stress and you not eating the best because I think everyone can relate to that. And
I mean, I think if I was sleeping 4 hours per day, I would play like shit. You know,
yeah,
if
yeah,
I was eating shit all the time, I would play like shit. And um, if I'm only, you know, sitting all day, never moving out of my chair, I'm probably also gonna, you know, play bad.
absolutely. So is that a focus you've had more so? Because I remember in the first podcast we did, it was a big focus on you talking about all these like kind of health and mentally and physically issues you'd had while you were playing. And it sounds like nowadays you kind of value your health a bit higher, or at least you're a bit more aware of that. How else are you emphasizing that in your life?
I mean, in my free time, like one of my biggest like hobbies or things I like reading the most is like about health. You know, I'm very into that. I find it like very interesting. I um, I think like you know how like you know just the basic things of like eating well and sleeping well has not been really like a focus point for like esports players. You know, we're like light years behind all the sports players who have like the best equipment and like literally can play up to 40, not feeling anything or whatever. So that's just gonna be the next era and evolution of like esports eventually, is that every team is just gonna be like also very health focused. It's gonna happen eventually because it's just
We see
logical.
G2 doing it right now, right?
yeah, for example, but I don't know how well they do it or how much they do it. You just hear the things they say in interviews, and they probably do some stuff for sure,
The
right?
most insightful thing I learned about that was I spoke to Isma, who's their sports psych and does a lot of the health related stuff. They know what certain food groups, like the effect it has on players. So they do their meal plans around that. So for example, there's like, I don't know if this is the example, I can't remember if this is the example. Something like carbohydrates like really affect Hans Sammer. And so like they
Yeah,
specifically make sure that he doesn't eat any of those before like stage games or scrims because it will like really affect his like fatigue and stuff like this. To me, that's like
it's possible.
that's quite next
It's
level.
possible. I had the same. Like for example, I remember in 2018 in Mad Lions, we had sometimes like a big portion of pasta before we played. Like literally, we eat, and then like 5 or 10 minutes later, we have scrims. And then not just me, but like most of the players felt very sleepy during scrims. That was like one thing. Or like for example, even these days, like a few weeks ago, I tried eating peanut butter, a lot of it, for the first time ever in my life, and I had instantly like my stomach instantly exploded. Like, okay, I guess it's trial and error. I didn't know that's gonna happen to me, but ever since then, I knew, and I think I had like screams or official on that day. I played so bad.
Can I just out of interest, what kind of motivated you to just eat a load of peanut butter? Because randomly, because I know that like dogs do that, for example, but I didn't know that like humans randomly got like cravings for peanut butter.
Peanut butter is like, I think, very high calorie food that a lot of people consume. So
So you just randomly just woke up and you're just like, yeah, I fucking could really
I mean, I'm
go
just
for.
reading what some other people are doing, and I'm testing it myself. Like, I don't know what you're trying to make here. You never like tried any food in your life, like new ones.
No, I didn't take one look at me, mate. I've had a bit of food in my life. I wanted to say two things off of the topic. One is a kind of a reflection on this topic, and then the next is the segue into the next question. I wanted to say in a non-patronizing way to you that I'm happy to hear that this is a focus for you because it's really positive, and I'm saying that to you as a friend. I hope you don't take that patronizing. Um,
No, I mean,
it,
it's
it,
normal, right?
it's
Like,
very positive, and it's nice to hear.
thank you.
No worries. And I wanted to lead into my next topic. Also, the person in chat who's just said DonJake seems very interested in food. Um, go fuck yourself. Next topic. It's interesting to hear you take such an interest in kind of the mental side of it and the health aspects of it, because I know this is something that Faker talks a lot about, and I wondered if that's something that you've gotten from him, because I know that he's like, this is one of the things we talked about in our first interview. He's like an idol for you. You look a lot into him. You kind of and you've looked into like books he's read and stuff like this. So I wonder if you could talk to me about your that
I don't
relationship.
think this is inspiration from him, but I don't know he like focuses on this aspect. I mean, I think like honestly, people can learn more about what they should be doing as esports players if they just listen to some Faker interviews. He says more valuable things than like 99% of pros. Like you can really see that this guy has spent years, you know, consuming knowledge, and now he's spreading it around for free. You just have to listen and see what he's saying. But yeah, no, for like diet specifically, it's not. I didn't really get that, or like health. I didn't really get that from Faker, but yeah, I've got it like mostly from internet.
That's one of the things I kind of realized when I was researching Faker for my Faker interview I did in 2024. Um, I looked into quite a lot like the books because he does like recommendations of books, and I think there's even a Twitter account. Someone can find it, or someone will know what I'm talking about. There's an account on Twitter. Shout out to the account that details every book that Faker has ever recommended, and I would recommend people trying to find that and checking it out. That's when I realized that like Faker was like really smart because it's one of those things. Lots of people read books and they like LARP or they're like lying about reading it. Famously, I do this. Like I've got books on my bookshelf that I've not read. If he reads the books that he says he does, then this guy's like a genius. Because it's like I've like see he like reads a load of stuff about like neuroplasticity and stuff like this. It's just like so difficult. Like I would like not understand a word of it, and I know lots of people that wouldn't. So kind of in following what he has to say, and I suppose that was part of the disappointment for me that I didn't really get him to open up when I spoke to him. So it's just like there's so much knowledge there, but he was quite clammed off. So I suppose my question to you, although I've gone on a massive anecdote there, is what are the biggest lessons that you've learned from listening to Faker?
Biggest lessons I've learned. I don't know how to even describe that. I guess what lesson would be just how to behave and how to act, and You know, like kind of everything, honestly. Like I don't know, like everything. I don't know if I can put this to words. It's just everything when it comes to the game, when it comes to how he thinks about the game, how he plays the game, outside the game. You know,
Well, let's
all
talk about
this.
inside the game briefly because I think so much of what Faker does is ephemerally described as greatness. We witness it greatness. So much of the nuance in that gets swept under the great tidal wave that is that greatness. So I feel like when we speak about the nuance of it, it can be quite difficult to get to the specifics because so much of it becomes intangible. To you, what is his greatest asset? What is his greatest skill other than just being consistently one of the best in the world?
I mean, to me, it's impressive to watch this guy evolve over time. You know, if you've been someone like me who literally started watching him from the early days to now, how he evolved as a player over the years, like what kind type of things he went through, and how this has shaped up to make him be what he is today. Like you know, like he was not like you know this type of like for example, just look at how he you know speaks in game. Like if you watch any of his like T1 voice comms, you know, videos where he you know the type of calls he makes, how he reads the map, his understanding of the big picture of the game. He doesn't just you know he's not just your typical solo queue player who like focuses on his lane and lanes here and does like 10 CS per minute or something, right? He's like a leader in so many ways, and uh, most pros aren't like that, you know, especially mid laners. Like it's just hard to describe his greatness in like few sentences here. This is like years of you know things he's showing.
It's quite genuine from you because I can feel the kind of the respect you have from him. It's really quite sweet. Um, you obviously in Los Ratones and also on streamer teams that you were playing during your absence, it feels like despite your self-described introverted nature, you do kind of step up into that shot caller role sometimes, and you try and make these calls and you try and make yourself be heard in those moments. Which I mean, as an introvert, you're going against your nature. Is that in the inspiration of him? Not to create complete narratives, but I'd imagine as an
I mean,
inspiration there.
probably, yeah. I mean, probably to a big extent it is from him because I would say, like for example, Chovy is not like that. But Chovy, I mean, he is starting to be like that, but he wasn't like that before. But Chovy is like a lot of grace in a lot. Chovy is very great in like a lot of other ways. Um, yeah, I think like league players, like everyone should be able to like step up, you know. Everyone should be like my ideal league player is like ideal 5 players on a team is that like everybody can play every role, everybody like can step up when it matters, everybody can lead the game in their own way. Everybody knows how to like communicate, and I'm just saying like few sentences here and it's a lot deeper than that, right? Um everybody needs to kind of be like Faker, you know.
And obviously the moron who listens to that goes, well, obviously if you had 5 fakers you do well, but when you're saying that, you more specifically mean the mindset, the approach, and the kind of ability to kind of have people step on your shoulders consistently, right?
Yes, basically.
How much of a testament to Faker was it when the big example I always see people use is the kind of when he was out with his injury and how like T1 fell to complete disarray. They were immediately like way worse when he was out. Do you remember that when he had his wrist? I think he had a wrist injury.
Yeah.
What did that say to you? Like, did that add a lot of kind of
I'm always very mindful when it comes to things like this because I don't want to like judge situations that I don't have very good information
exactly?
of.
Yeah, yeah, fair.
As much as T1 looked very bad at that time, and most people just immediately draw to the conclusion of, oh, it's just Faker gap. You know, I don't want to draw conclusions. I think it's likely that a big portion of that was Faker. It could also be other factors that people aren't considering, like maybe their players, maybe one of their players is just dealing with like personal issues, maybe this, maybe that. You never know when it comes to esports, right?
Well, it's also a thing of
But
like not only gameplay wise, people are like, oh, like he's not there, so therefore like maybe the calls aren't there. They don't know how to play the map. But it's also like their kind of their lighthouse in the team is gone in some ways, right?
yeah,
He must be such a presence in the dressing room, so to speak.
100% sure. Like, you know, I for sure think this. had an impact, because if you're used to playing with a player for like many months and then he's no longer there, then you have to like rechange everything. And especially when things go badly in league, then mentally like players can collapse very fast. League is a very tough competition.
Absolutely. And I wondered, in your time in Korea, obviously, you mentioned earlier, you kind of give a little bit of a shout out to Arnold for looking after you quite a bit on Gen G. Did you have any interactions with any of the Gen G players back then, just like candidly, or was it kind of quite separated?
Sadly, not much. I've had some interactions with Quad, the FlyQuest mid laner, because we were doing like a photo shoot and we talked a little bit. I had, uh, I mean, I had some interactions with Faker, but not so much with like Gen G players. Yeah, I wouldn't say much. I once had a discussion with the Gen G coaches though back then.
Interesting. Could you tell me the story about that?
Trying to remember it because I actually don't remember it well, but I remember one time, I think, I don't know how it came across, but like basically I went to the office there and I had like a 30-minute discussion with a translator with like their coaches inside the room. And I was just like, I think I was trying to like ask them questions. Why do you guys do this? Why do you guys do that? I was trying to tell them this is wrong, this champ is good, this, that. They were trying to like, I think like try to get opinions, but I personally felt like I got nowhere. I felt like it is impossible to talk to them. I like, not to be like disrespectful, but I just think they don't have the analytical capability to understand anything I'm saying. Uh, that was my feeling back then, and those coaches are no longer working on Janji. Just to be clear, those were a long time ago.
Hmm.
But I just felt like those people were completely clueless.
That's fair. But like when you say kind of, because we're talking about here, it's a theme that kind of comes concurrently in these interviews, is we talk about kind of the Inspired spoke about this, and I know that you watched the Inspired interview. It's the thing you talked about at the beginning of if you have this kind of way of seeing things cerebrally and 3D, it can be quite hard to explain the 3D structure to someone who can only see something in 2D. So, and obviously, I know this is not to speak down on you. It's a theme that we spoke about in our previous interview. You have a problem with like you're quite worried about how to express yourself, and you feel kind of quite trapped in English sometimes. So how do you navigate that? Because you've got so many ideas about League, especially when you're speaking to Korean coaches, especially when you're speaking to anyone. How difficult is it for you to get some of these ideas, these higher order
I think
concepts across?
this was more of a problem in the past. I don't feel that way that much these days.
Interesting. That's good to hear.
But um, I think the bigger problem is that people learn in different ways. And sometimes you need to be able to tell the same point in 5 different ways, and whether it is through some analogies or whatever. And I think, I have my own way of saying things that someone might not understand well and someone will understand really well. And it's not very easy to now just tell the same way that I'm saying things in 50 different ways. I don't think I'm like very good at that. Someone like, for example, Alice will do it way better than me. Um, so that's where I think the problem is, yeah.
Could you? I just kind of put it back to LR when you're because obviously you're delivering ideas, and famously, I remember the clip of you when you were completely like molding, complaining about was it Zinzao B1 and stuff like this. There's obviously times when you're annoyed about certain ideas, but presumably when the conversation moves off stream and you're having these neutral conversations, how do you go about just as a fun activity? How do you deliver ideas to Baus versus Velia versus Reckless versus Groundshot? How do those people? How do you tailor your approach to those different people?
Think I do it similarly to all of them, but obviously all 4 of them will take it in a different way. Like they will all read it in a different way. I think the easiest one to talk to is Crowny, because he just has a very, very, very similar approach and mindset when it comes to a lot of things. Like the way we see League of Legends is just very similar. So to him, I can just say one sentence and he will, I think, understand it. Um, you know, to other people, I mean, it just depends on person to person. Like, not all ideas will be able to be implemented, right? Like, if I say X champion is good, I also understand that, maybe the player isn't comfortable with playing the champion. Maybe the player just isn't willing to put the time in. Maybe there's other restrictions. Maybe he doesn't see the same picture as I do. That is just life of being a player. And unless you have literally, a very insane 5 choice on your team who will understand these things, especially in Western League of Legends, it's just not going to be easy, right? And these things also take time. I'm not saying like we have limited time here. We have a match in 1 week, new patch drops, Riot balance team changes up the game. Okay, let's just try to figure out fast, right? Let's go for the most simple ways to figure out how to win that, like, you know, a basic toddler can do, instead of trying to figure out the most complicated way, because, you know, at the end of the day, you have to also be efficient with your time. Yeah, if you had months and months and months, and you had like, it also depends. Like, for example, I think uh online is like maybe a little bit harder than than it would be if it was all in person, right? That's another aspect to look at it.
I wanted to talk to you about Caedrel because he's such a kind of a massive entertainer now. He's one of the biggest streamers in the world, and so much of that pursuit is being loud and brash and being someone that people can like find entertaining. But obviously, as everyone who watches him knows, there's a great analytical mind there, and you're someone that experiences that firsthand, presumably off stream, because you're both in an environment where you're trying to win. Talk to me about the analytical mind that Caedrel is. What's his approach? Where do you differ? Where are you similar? Give us a picture of who Caedrel the coach is.
Where we are different is mostly that I think he draws too much inspiration from watching Pro League. I think that's like the biggest thing where we differ, because he will naturally gravitate more towards what the best teams in the world are doing, which I understand. I would probably do the same if I watched like every game they're playing. I differ from the fact that all my conclusions are usually drawn just from my personal experience, kinda, right? Or like how I construct things, and it's not usually is a lot of times it's not gonna be the same as what the best teams in the world are doing. Um, so obviously there's some things there, but I don't think like when it comes to casual, I don't think we had like many disagreements when it comes to me, right? The big thing that me and casual were working towards this year was like trying to figure out how to make like other pieces work, because, you know, it's not like if I have to play a champ, I'll obviously play a champ mid lane. It wasn't mostly about like mid lane. It was mostly about, I think we had like, I guess, more focus on like everything else, kinda. I
Um,
was probably like, I'm trying to say that's like mid lane was probably like the least focused role in Los Ratones, you know.
for sure,
That's
but
what I'm trying to come up.
philosophically, I could see benefits and downsides to others, right? With Caedrel, for example, what you're talking about, and correct me at any point because like I'm just responding to what you're saying and then also imbuing my own bias to it. So correct me and feel free to interrupt me. With what you're saying with Caedrel, it sounds like it's a thing where um he's willing to subject himself to a degree of appeal to authority bias because following the best teams in the world is likely to lead to a good set of data to follow. But the danger in that and what you're talking about is that how much can it's like the thing in any game where it's like if you just follow the meta, you're never going to break the meta and make the new meta that's determined by you being the best.
I mean, it's not just that; it's the fact that we play in different environments. That's the problem. Like the games that we play just look different to the games they play. It's not one to one. Like a good example of this is like if you watch Worlds right now, right? Finals, whatever, you know, two Asian teams going towards against each other. You know, they're fighting every objective off cooldown. I literally never see them drop a dragon. Atakan up, okay, we're gonna drop every wave, we're gonna walk to Atakan and fight it no matter what. Even if our Nexus explodes, we're gonna fight it. We're 4k down, okay, fight. That's all they do. They have no other way of playing League of Legends. In our game, okay, enemy team might not go for Jake. Okay, the game completely changes then. Nothing is replicatable anymore because the environment is just completely different.
Not to say that anything is ever truly correct, because to assume that is to evaluate the game wrong. But do you think that there's a obviously when you talk about with ERLs, the reason that's happening is because it's a different environment. It's like it's lower level if we're being honest. But it is true that in comparison to West to East gameplay, the West is more likely to drop objectives. Even at tier one competition, there's a difference in environment there. What would you say is what would you say are the reasons for that? Not to work towards something being objectively right, but to kind of comment on what you think reasons are for the differences.
I'm not sure. I think people here probably just realized that you don't have to lose a game over a dragon if it's not contestable. You're just gonna have to drop it and go somewhere else and get what you can elsewhere. I think there they just, in my opinion, just follow a very rigid structure
Yeah.
way of playing the game, which is they just somehow agree, like all the teams somehow just agree to handshake everything, which is crazy to me. Like to me, it just doesn't feel like they even consider any other possibility. They're just like, okay, we're gonna handshake this, then we're gonna handshake that, then we're gonna handshake that. I
So
can't explain to you why that is. That's just how things are.
so here's my question for you, and it's an interesting one. It's devil's advocate. It's difficult, and I'm being a dickhead on purpose. But when you talk about this, you talk about this kind of they're just agreeing to handshake each other. You're almost talking about it as being this like Truman Show that you're watching live. You don't understand why all of them are like subjecting themselves to this fake reality. But you've played against teams. Famously, should have probably gone the distance against TES back in 2020. When you're playing those series, surely you yourself as a player are also being subjective to kind of some of these cognitive falsehoods and fake realities.
I mean, maybe, but then again, I don't remember much back then because it was such a long time ago. I wouldn't be able to like tell you exactly what I was thinking in that moment. And I think we play League of Legends at a higher level than it was played back then because naturally, the level of gameplay goes up every year, especially in a 5-year gap. The level of
Yes,
gameplay
yes,
will
but
be higher.
you get my question. Not talking about specifics in terms of that series, but when you're playing against Asian teams, which you have a lot of experience doing in best of fives and scrims and stuff like this, I'd imagine being on these teams, it's not like you've ever been on a team that magically found the solution because it's not a new problem that you see Asian teams agree to this kind of false stratum handshake and then Western teams like don't know what to do against it. You would have also experienced that in teams that you were on. So talk to me about the feeling of that, and like when you're in it, it must feel different. But when you've also experienced it yourself, you must look at it like, why is this
I,
happening?
I understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest disconnect that I've noticed, and I don't know how to explain this, but when you play League of Legends on their server, the game is different. Like it doesn't feel like you're playing the same League of Legends, okay? And I'm not saying that they're doing something. I mean, they're
Are
obviously
you are
playing
you
it
uh are
different.
you a follower of my theory that Riot adjusts all the damage modifiers for T1 when they're at Worlds? That's my conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Are you willing to join me on this conspiracy theory? Sorry,
No.
go back to what you're saying. Sorry.
Basically, the point I'm trying to make is that because they do things differently, there. It makes you feel like there are new things possible in the game that you didn't know existed before. And they've been practicing those things all the time, and you can't because they don't happen on the server that you play on. Like this was like the first feeling I had when I first went to Korea. Like for example, I just felt like the amount of times they can kill a champion there is crazy because if I had the same exact scenario in my server, the champion would never die. Because I just think they play mechanically so much better. That the gap is very noticeable, is how it feels like to me.
And I suppose you can't
Between
immediately what happened in my mind there is you inverse the logic. When you're talking about we go there and things are possible, well then you make the argument, well, why can't things be different when it comes here? But it sounds like what you're talking about is ping, right? It's not
I don't
like
know
you
if it's
it's not
just pink. It might be pink, but it might also be that mechanically I think they're way better on average. Like you have to understand that in a high elo lobby, you might have like 2 players who play mechanically well, but the 8 players are trash mechanically. But there it just feels like that 9 or 10 players will always be good mechanically. I think that's where I think maybe the biggest gap is created. Like is how I felt.
so I mean this is an argument that lots of people have kind of talked about over the years. I mean it's the main topic I seem to speak to people that kind of sit in the ideological camp that you do. They seem to talk about this, the gap in hands, so to speak. But then the next thing that follows on from that logically is that people talk, well, if we can't compete on hands, then we have to compete on brains and creativity. You talk about in Korean culture, this kind of uniformity leads to a lack of diversity sometimes in champion pools. It's a very overt appeal to authority a lot of the times, like what you're talking about. It's like, oh, X player played this, therefore this is good. This is what we're playing. Dictated in a bubble, so to speak. When the West has done the best, it has been when they've adhered to these kind of creative adjustments. But that seems to not really be the case anymore. What do you believe that that's truly the best way to compete against Eastern teams?
I do, yeah. I think the best way of beating Eastern teams is pretty much to not do what they do, which has been said like God knows how many times, right? In the last God knows how many years by a lot of people.
But it
Like if we're
sounds
gonna
like
copy one by one of what they're doing, we will never beat them. That's what I do think, yeah.
But it sounds like this thing, and you're talking about it. You're actually, because this is something that gets said a lot of the time, and I think if you were to just not unpack it, it runs the risk of being repeating the same thing. But you've actually, weirdly, added another layer for me that's really, really interesting. I want to unpack, where you talk about it being this thing of you go there, and this is not exactly what you're saying, but me being the writer I am, me being the creative I am, me, having done the drugs I've done in the past. What I get from you saying this is it's almost like you become under this like magical spell when you go there and you play. And it's kind of similar to what G2 talks about. Because G2 had this whole thing in the last couple of years where they go to Korea, they've got all this domestically creative ideas. They get absolutely bollocked and like their backs blown out by like a knocked on Oriana. And then suddenly all of their identities out of the window. It's like this thing of like you're in school and you've got this whole identity and then like all the cool kids at your school like wear like long like tight jeans and stuff like this, and you're suddenly like, I've got no choice but to wear tight jeans and listen to this type of music. Is that what's happening, you think?
I think this is a very good way of how you described it. Because it was the same back then when I played solo queue. I became naturally very biased towards what champions are strong based on how they're performing on their server. But a lot of those champions on their server would be complete trash or not even played on my server. So back then I was saying, like, for example, a lot of things like they don't like, why the fuck is Europe not playing this champion? It's so fucking broken. Because it is in Korean environment, but in European environment, the champion is trash. This happened a lot, yeah. So it's like a very hard thing to unpack because you need to be able to understand what they can do and then understand also to not be corrupted by what they can do. Like, it's not easy, but I still do think that, like, yeah, creativity is very important. There are champions that Korea has no idea about, that they don't even understand any of the strength of it. Like a random example, Vel'Koz. I truly think Vel'Koz is amazing champion. Nobody from West is gonna pull it out. Flexible in like 2 or 3 roles even.
What's good about it? Explain it to the layman, because everyone will call you a madman for saying this, but if you're actually able to put it in terms, people will believe you.
I mean, obviously, like Vel'Koz has been described like over the years as like this, artillery mage that is very hard to play, and he has like very like, like if you aim well with your Q and if you're very like smart and then you coordinate it with your team play, you make him not be, for example, the weakness is that he's kind of immobile, right? But you play around those weaknesses and then the champion can become really strong. I think this, like, kit-wise, this is how people describe Vel'Koz, and it makes sense. The problem that Vel'Koz had for all these years is that I think his numbers were bad. I think recently, with Riot buffing the champion so many times, he's right now, even statistically speaking, at his best like state he's ever been as. I truly think that this year was basically the best year of Vel'Koz, the state of the champion that the champion has like ever been in. As yeah, is what I'm trying to say. And I mean, I get so passionate talking about this, right? But
I love it.
I think the champion. I mean, I can tell you why it's great, but I feel like you have to also play it to understand it. Kind of why it's great. I just think like damage is absurd on the champion right now. His cooldowns are great. His ranges are very powerful. His itemization is awesome. I just think he like ticks a lot of the boxes that may just need
Talk to me about
to be good.
talk to me about some of the conditions you need for a game, because I know that you famously played Vel'Koz. Sorry, I keep traumatically bringing up that series, but you did play it in that series. Talk to me about some of the conditions that need to happen in a game for you to play it.
I mean, to be honest, like back then when I played Vel'Koz, I think I was very bad at the champion, like horrible, And nowadays, I think I'm like way better at the champion, and I'm still like, the champion is so complicated and so hard and so it's so tough to be consistent on it that I think like I have so much room to improve still, even though I feel like I improved so much on it.
It makes
It's
me
like, for
it makes
example,
me very happy hearing you talk like this. This is like yeah, this is making me very happy.
I mean,
Sorry to
a
cut you.
champion that I, for example, feel the same is about like Akshan, for example. I feel like every time I play him, I can play so well, and after the game, I'm gonna feel like I can play so much better. It's like the possibility is endless. That's how Vel'Koz feels for me. And what are the conditions that he needs to be picked up? First of all, the discussion is whether he can be flexed or not, because I think all of a sudden, if you can flex him to ADC, which again, people have somehow accepted nation-wise, like popular-wise, people have accepted that we're just gonna handshake ADCs every game. We're just gonna forget that mages, for example, exist on bot lane all these years, where they have been statistically overperforming for God knows how many years, and Rod even had to like change up the runes to deal with like mages bot lane, whatever. Now all of a sudden, if you can flex vehicles to multiple roles, viability will go up by a lot, right? The conditions are pretty simple. You want the enemy team to have like the least amount of like dashes or hard engage, and the moment they don't have engage or dashes, the champion is automatically overpowered. Like there's a day and night difference if you're playing against Cassante as Vel'Koz than if you're playing against Ambassa, because Ambassa murders Vel'Koz, Cassante doesn't do anything in the Vel'Koz. Like these are just like random examples I can give you, right? It just depends, because you need to like, there's meta being played right in pro play, and you need to like structure what are the most popular champions that people will pick, and then you need to like fit Vel'Koz in there. And I think in Fearless draft that's very possible. If obviously if Fearless wasn't in the game, I think viability of champions like Vel'Koz Xerath would go down by a lot. Sorry, I keep yapping.
Dude, I fucking love it, man. Please never apologize. Like some people like planes and airplanes. Like you like fucking Vel'Koz, dude. I think that's fucking cool as fuck. Is there any other champions that you really think are like underrated? Like
I think I could speak about this for like a lot of champs. I don't think it's like Vel'Koz specific. It's just the game, you know. I'm passionate about the game.
name me some, man. This is beautiful. This is like poetry.
I mean, do you really want
I want to
me
know,
to yap?
man. You don't have to yap. I'll stop you. Listen. I've interviewed Whippo a few times. I know how to stop a yapper.
I know, but Buipo is like on another level. I'm not comparable
No, no,
to him,
no.
you know. I don't know, like what champion. I don't know, like Mel is funny to me, for example, because you
Yeah.
know Mel is known Raider because
You know
Faker
that's
played
my
it. But before...
you know that's my mum's name. My mum's name's Mel.
Okay, let's talk about Anivia. Anivia is funny to me because there's recently this one chick that came out that talked about how haste on Anivia is like great, and he never like, you know, built haste on the champion because Faker did it for one game. And it's just funny to me, you know, that you have a Korean challenger one chick Anivia that's probably played like 10,000 Anivia games in his life, and somehow he didn't consider building haste on the champion. But now because Faker did it one game, all of a sudden it's a thing. Like things like this in League are really funny. It just truly shows you that what people play is oftentimes just shadowed by what like players like Chovy and Faker play.
Absolutely. If you've seen that guy, there's that guy in Diamond 4 called Popstar Gwen. He plays 5,000 games a season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just an example, you know. He's actually dedicated over a year of his life in actual time to playing this game, and he's still
Yeah,
Diamond
that's
4.
what
So it's like
people flame League for being a terrible game, but the reality is that it's one of the best games out there, you know.
I love that that's what you got from that. Like I said that to you, and you said that that means that League is a great game. I think that what my point was that like you could just play it and like never change your mindset. You're a real addict,
I mean,
man. You're a real
okay,
addict. Like,
okay, I get your point. You're basically saying that there's like I remember there's like this guy that has like God knows how many thousands of games of Garen, and I think he builds exactly the same thing every single game, and he's been doing this for like years, and he never gets bored of it. I think that was like the point you were trying to make.
exactly.
I've seen it.
Well, it's like, you know, what's the phrase? I've someone remind me in chat. It's a thing about like the true I think it's not even a real quote. I remember it being like a misquote. But it's like the real definition of insanity is just like doing the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
People say that that's like a quote from someone, but it's like not actually a real quote.
Isn't
I
it?
remember.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I was mad once. I was in a room with Anivia and Quinn. Sorry, my bad. I apologize. That was actually a bad joke. That's not your fault. That's actually my fault completely. Like that's actually
Don't be
my.
jokes.
Sorry. So are there any other champions that you really like? What other special interests you have?
Well, we're not talking about champions, no.
Okay, no worries. Cool. I did have a question for you. Let's get back on track here. Jesus Christ. Oh God. So what you're talking about, you're very anti-uniformity in general. It's something that you resent in Korean players. It's something you resent in general. But does that not present a sort of an ideological struggle for you with Caedrel? For example, if you're to talk further for the LEC versus team next year, when you go up against higher competition, when you've got the ability to potentially qualify for first stat, there's a major ideological difference there because he is, in essence, subscribing to a model of uniformity if it's just a case of following the top regions. Where does that struggle come into play for you?
Personally, I don't think there's really like an issue because ultimately teams in League of Legends are player-led teams, and Los Ratones is a player-led team, and Caedrel is not there to dictate what I'm gonna play and everything. He's there to like question me, and he's there to like give me suggestions, and it is up to me to decide what I want to play and how things should be done. So, like for example, if I pick a champion and the champion doesn't perform, then probably it's my fault. It's not really Caedrel's fault.
So you're saying you're the boss?
I'm saying that
No, I'm joking.
teams in League are player-led, and when people online flame the coaches for bad jobs, they're delusional.
Interesting. So what actual role does the coach have then at that point? Because it's
That's a very good topic. Like, let me try to let me try to talk about something. So, people judge coaches by whether they win or they don't. People online, they go and they say like a very recent example, I don't know, like I'm just gonna give a recent example, okay? Like Alfari just joined allegedly Koi, right, as a coach.
yeah,
And you
as an
go to the
assistant.
Reddit thread, and everybody's saying, "Wow, this is so amazing! Good job, good job! This is amazing!" Blah 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 blah. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why? Because I don't know anything Alfari does, and neither do you. We don't have any information how he is. He might be the best coach, he might be the worst coach. I'm not gonna have an opinion. Why do you guys have an opinion on this? I don't understand. Coaches cannot be judged at all because there's nothing publicly that you can judge the coaches by unless you're LS or like Max Waldo and he puts all the content out there. Then there's something to judge.
Well, isn't the
99
thing with Alfari was that he had helped Broken Blade behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, but you still don't know how much of that he contributed to, right? You just don't.
That's fair. I mean, I don't know. I was going to make a really offensive joke that will get us in trouble, but you're on screen, so I can't do it. Yeah, no, I can't. Fucking hell, I wish I could make that joke.
I know it makes people uncomfortable, but my opinion is that coaches cannot be judged in League of Legends. They cannot be judged by anything. They cannot be judged by results. They cannot be judged by what the players say in interviews. They cannot be judged by anything, which is sad, but that's, I think, the reality that we live in.
That's fair. So you think the coach? I mean, it sounds like you don't really have a problem with. It's not necessarily a problem with coaches. It's more about the mental gymnastics that people make to evaluation when they don't really act on any information.
Yeah.
You sound like you have generally quite a concurrent theme in your life. Is kind of the annoyance at people who react to things without context or knowledge. Discernment, I think, is
Yeah.
what LS constantly calls it. He says you lack, like you'll see LS replying to people on Twitter, you'll be like, you lack the discernment. You have no discernment. You have no right to speak about this.
I mean, he's right most of the time. Like the people that he's talking to cannot actually tell the difference between what is right and what isn't.
Yeah,
So
no,
it's a waste of time talking to them.
I agree completely. It's just that every time I imagine LS arguing with someone on Twitter, for me, it's always that thing of you won't know the clip I'm talking about, but everyone in chat probably will. The guy who's like bald in the middle but has hair on the side, and he's like a tiny person, and he's like saying, "You don't know what art is. I walked Bob Dylan up on stage in '86," and like you got to respect the silence and stuff like that. That's how I imagine him. People will know what I'm talking about. Like that's who LS is whenever he argues with anyone. But in any case, going back to what you're talking about here, your problem in general with don't stop smiling. It's not you don't know what I'm talking about. Why are you smiling?
I think I kind of do, but yeah,
okay, okay. Fair enough. Your general problem and one of the concurrent themes in your life seems to be a disparaging response and a kind of an not necessarily an anger, but at least like a cynical dislike of lack of ability to discern. But I know from being a person that also maybe not as strongly as you, but also dislikes this. It makes it really hard to genuinely connect with people because so much of fan sentiment and so much of genuine connection becomes quite cynical and not necessarily real. Sort of in the same way that, for example, I'll give you a personal anecdote to make the landing a bit easier for you. I've always felt like, for example, at the moment, I've come back to interviews, everyone's loving them, people are being so lovely to me. I love that, but it's like when I wasn't doing anything, I didn't speak to anyone. So it's like, how much do I feel that love is real? Do you know what I mean? For you, with this kind of reaction to discerning and anger at it sometimes, does it make it difficult to connect with people? Because at a certain point, you'll be like, you think I'm a great player, but you don't really know why I'm a great player, or you think I'm XYZ, XYZ.
I think every like person that is to some level good at something, I guess, will have to deal with that problem. Because you don't even have to look at someone who plays games. I don't know, Magnus Carlsen, when he talks to like whoever, they have no clue about chess. Like he has to deal with the same problem. Like Eminem talks to somebody, they have no clue about rap. They can have their like opinion and all of this, but they're not nearly even on the same level. Okay, I'm just giving like random examples, but yeah, this is just something that you have to learn, how to like deal with it, and you know such as life.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, I think Alfaro probably wouldn't want to work on a team with you because I've heard he's in terms of picking new champions, he's anti-Vex. Um, so probably won't be picking that champion anytime soon. Yeah, so we've moved on from discernment and we're talking about coaching and stuff like this. I wanted to talk to you about the general landscape of EU because you're actually going to be playing in direct competition, which gives you the rare ability. You're actually speaking from not necessarily an outside perspective. You've had this thing for the last few years where it's like you say all these things, but it's like, well, yeah, motherfucker, but what, you're not playing, so who cares? But now you will be playing. So I wanted you to, you've got more of a qualifier to your opinions. How do you actually feel about yourself in terms of your strength amongst some of these other mid laners?
um, the answer is I don't know. I just don't know. I don't watch other mid laners play. I don't think I honestly just don't know. I think we're just gonna have to see what happens when I play against them. I might be the best, I might be the worst. I have no idea.
That's interesting. You seem to kind of be quite heavily in your own lane. At least I know when we interviewed in 2023, you still had an opinion of where you were sat, but your mindset towards that has changed.
My mindset is that I cannot say anything that is remotely cocky in an interview because it can like bite back at me, right?
That's fair. But I suppose that's because you're actually at it now. You're at the precipice of it. Back in 2023, I would ask you something like this, and you'd be like, "Yeah, easily. I'm still top three. I'm still top two." But now that you're actually at it, you seem a little bit less reluctant because I suppose
But that's not
it's more real now.
because I'm now at it and back then I wasn't. That's just because my perspective has changed.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying. That's what intrigues me. One of the things that I think is actually really nice to hear for me as an interviewer is that you've actually, I mean, obviously everyone does, but you seem to have changed quite a bit over the last 2 years. And I'd imagine one of the main experiences that you've had and one of the main reasons for that is LR. But I kind of wanted to get to the bottom of what else has happened in your life for you to change your perspective in some ways. You seem a lot less jaded. You seem a lot more content in yourself and present. You're able to just be like reactive in a way of saying things like, well, I'll just see what happens and I can only do what I can do and stuff like this. There's less doubt, maybe. I don't know.
I've always been very confident in the things that I think I'm good at as a person. I don't think that has ever changed or be different.
Mm.
But what has happened in my life? I don't know. I don't really have a specific thing that I can like allude this to. I think it's mostly just you grow, right? Like 1 year is a long time, 2 years is a long time, 3 years is a long time. I don't know. Probably a lot of things together now got me to here.
And obviously, it's a different experience to previous teams you've on. I'd imagine more friendly in some ways. I remember speaking to you about Fnatic, and although there are friendships that endured from that time, and there are friendships that endured from your time on Mad Lions when you played in the academy, you spoke to me a lot about kind of isolation and feeling quite alone and not really feeling like you had a support network at that time. Whereas I can imagine in contrast, LR is, I mean, even though there are rough times sometimes, it's very much a friend-led project. I wondered maybe if you could talk about that. Has the connectivity and the kind of the warmth that you've experienced at LR changed you in some ways?
Probably. I mean, the fact that I definitely don't want to ever work in the same environments I worked with as a human, back then, because I just think they were very mentally rough, those environments, and I just think they're not worth it to me as a human. So like LR is definitely like the best environment out of any team I've been in, right? Because it's just a lot easier to relate and talk to people, and there's no bullshit drama and no person trolling me. And the thing like Caedrel is
Well,
not
failure
hiring
sometimes.
somebody for fun, or I don't have some useless person next to me telling me completely wrong things that I had to deal with back then. Um, so in that aspect, like Los Ratones is very nice, to be in as a human.
Do you still feel as if, because I mean, and if this is something you're not comfortable talking about, then just tell me to fuck off. We're friendly enough with each other that you can just do that, and I won't take any offense to it. But in terms of how you exist on a day to day, I know some of the times you experienced on Fnatic were like very, very difficult. Um, is it a thing where you've kind of do you still have any problems that persist from those times? Because I know for me, for example, bad experiences that I've had, be it relationships, be it like working relationships that I've had, there's still certain ways in which I react to certain things or like certain things that happen to me in my life where I go, oh wow, that thing that happened back then is still affecting me now. Would you say that's the case for you with Fnatic and that kind of period of your life?
I would say I definitely care about it last today, and I definitely like healed a lot from those times. But I also think that those things I will remember for the rest of my life, and those things have damaged me, in a way. Like it's a scar, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And again, because it's such a sensitive subject, and I don't want to feel as if at any point you feel as if I'm attempting to make you talk about something that is, uh, commodifying or yeah, commodifying is the right word. Trying to make what you're doing into some sort of make your feelings into some sort of like capitalistic package, then please we'll move on. But I think it's an important thing to speak about because mental health is such an important topic and I think for you as someone that is an inspiration for so many people, I wondered if maybe you could comment on how some of those scars like manifest because for me, for example, I have scars from things that have happened to me, and it's one of those things where it's only when certain things happen or maybe you react to certain things in a certain way that you realize that those scars exist. So I wondered if you could talk maybe about how those scars affect you in the day to day and maybe the small ways that they do, or the month to month or the week to week, if you're comfortable talking about it.
I mean, hmm, you know how people always, something really bad happens to them, and then years later, when a lot of years pass, they're like, instead of like hating on it, they're usually like, thank you, because this is what made me who I am.
Mm.
That's kind of, I think, the stage I'm getting at is like, you know like what is in the past is past, but those things, I guess, shaped me into who I am today. And those are like valuable lessons in life.
That's I think you're very very brave for talking about it. Um, it's good to speak to you about it. So I'm getting God, I got emotional yesterday speaking to Mickey. God, give me a second. I guess what I wanted to ask you is, as being someone that is kind of a senior figure in the community, someone that experienced a lot of these things when you were younger, coming up through the ranks of being a rookie. I don't think Europe has changed in a lot of ways. I think there's lots of players who are in your position now that are going through the ranks, that potentially might go through. We hope that they won't go through similar things, but they might experience some things that are bad. What would your advice be for them, and what's kind of your words to the public, both to the player and both to the community, the ecosystem, the structure, as someone who went through some stuff? I wonder if you had any comments on that.
You know, I mean, I don't know if I can speak for everyone else, but I'll speak for myself. Like all these things that I do, which is just like, to daily basis. to answer these questions, to do this for people or whatever, to like share this, to do this. The ultimate reason of why I do what I do, like the ultimate goal behind this is that if this helps one person out there, someone growing up, and then they can use my experience to help there, then that's basically the goal. That's basically why I do what I do. And I think it goes for like a lot of other people, you know. Um because I could easily just not do a lot of things that I do. Um
Yeah,
that's kind of like, I guess, the thought behind it.
I think that's very, very powerful. And I admire you a lot for doing so. Um, I wanted to ask one of the part of your journey in arriving to this point, because it's been, 5, 6 years, it's been a long time, and you've presumably, like we're talking about, one of the themes at this current point that we're at is talking about how much you've changed, or ways in which you've changed. You're naturally combating a sort of introversion and a nature of being that is keeping your cards close to your chest. And I know from speaking to you personally, it can be quite hard to speak about things of a personal nature for you. So I wanted to maybe ask you, how have you navigated that as a journey? Because I think one of the first things for me, I'm the complete opposite of you. I still find difficulties, but like I am like, I mean, you know me. If you message me and you ask me what's wrong, immediately 5 paragraphs, and I'll tell you exactly, because we've had that before. I wanted to ask you, how do you navigate that difficulty? Because often the first step to getting better and getting over it is talking about it, which must be quite difficult for you. How did you get it out, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I mean, I've always been a person who didn't really want to share anything about myself. Like when I was a kid or like younger, I never wanted to like share anything about anything about me, and I always had like, I would say walls built around me. And if like I met a new person, they would need to break a couple of walls before they would actually get to talk to me on like a more of a human level. I mean, over the years, this has changed in a way where I'm more aware of what I'm able to share and what I'm not able to share. Like obviously in some ways I still don't really share who I am ultimately, or what I ultimately think. Mm, I had like another thought, but now I kind of forgot it.
I mean, you can sit with it, man, for as long as you need to. It's quite like a it's quite an emotional topic. I suppose one of the things that I was interested there is you've developed these guards, so to speak. Um, and at least now it's a thing where the guards are still there, but you're more aware of them. And is that,
Yeah,
I suppose that makes it a lot easier for you to connect with new people then.
I mean, connecting with new people is not easy from my perspective, because first you need to find somebody that you have some sort of like common interests together or whatever, right? That's like the basic step. But then it's also about, I'm in a position, and obviously like a lot of other people are in the same position as me. It's not just me. I'm in a position where, you know, like I'm not in the same position as a regular person, is what I'm trying to say. You know, um, other things need to be considered of why, like basically it's just hard to make new connections depending on what they are. Like of course it's easy to talk to a League of Legends player about League of Legends, right? Um, but I just need to consider like a lot of other factors, and you never know. It's hard to know the true intentions of why somebody talks to you. You understand what I mean? Because I'm in a different position than a regular person.
Hmm. But I suppose it's a thing where, in terms of your status as a regular or irregular person, it still comes from like a central origin. In terms, I guess what I wanted to ask is if you'd feel comfortable sharing, because we've talked a lot about slight persona adjustments and the role of being an entertainer and how important it is to be an entertainer. I don't want to ask who Nemesis really is because that's facetious, and I think you give us enough of who you genuinely are, and I don't want to drive any complexes about you not being genuine. But I suppose the question I'd like to ask you is, when you're at your most authentically and safe, what do you think would surprise people about who you are? When you're in your most intimate setting with your friends, you're with Zookil, people like this, what do you think would surprise people about the person you are in that moment?
Oh, no, that's a tough question to answer because I think every person would kind of draw their own conclusions of how I am, you know?
Mm,
Like
mm,
everyone would probably, like every person would find different values in me that they would like.
mm.
Like maybe to some people I'm funnier than they think. Maybe to some people I'm a lot more emotional than they think. Maybe, you know, I think it would be different for person to person.
It's interesting. It's very interesting. I'm sorry for taking you to this place. I hope you feel okay with it.
No, I'm triggered because I had something I wanted to talk about and now I actually completely forgot it like before, you know, and I can't think about it. That's why I'm triggered.
Whenabouts was it before? Because we can do the rejig when we go back.
Yes, I think it's already lost, honestly.
You
I don't know.
sorry,
There's a lot
are you
of
talking about
different.
the conversation or LEC versus what's already lost?
No. Like the conversation, like recently, but like my point is that like there's just a lot of things that pop in my head that like I could speak about for a long time, and then sometimes like you know they go away. Oh hi, hi
Sorry,
there.
my roommate just came in, my bad. Sorry, you were saying?
No worries. Yeah, I'm saying that there's a lot of conversations that pop into my head, and then it's hard to like go from one to one to one. Like a lot of topics pop into my head when you're like asking questions and stuff, right? Because my brain comes up with like a lot of these topics that I'm like passionate about, and then you know I talk about one, but then I'm sadly maybe sometimes gonna forget what the second one was, you know, and then I get kind of lost.
It's
I'm
fair.
bad at like yeah.
It's interesting. That's a topic I want to go into. I've got another thing to circle back to. I'm actually quite good at multitasking, so I'll remember it. One of the things I spoke to you about with Inspired is in terms of his ability to see the game a bit wider. I wanted to talk to him about what kind of intelligence he possesses, and he was saying how, like in school, he was always quite good at like spatial intelligence. Like for example, like you've got a cube, you unfold it. How do you put the cube back together and stuff like this? I wanted to ask you in terms of you talked about like multitasking there, and there's also like a lot of like intensity to you in certain like you're very passionate about certain subjects. Talk to me about kind of where your cognitive skill set lay rather like in school. Like what were you good at? What do you understand about your own brain, especially with you having read a lot about health and the brain and stuff like this?
I mean, at the beginning I was good at pretty much everything, but over time
Interesting.
I only left being good in things that I was passionate about. Because if I don't care about something, I don't want to be good at it because I'm stubborn. So, for example, I don't know, just a random example, like when I had biology at school and we were learning about like whatever, like if the topic was interesting to me, like I was super passionate about it. I would even read like more stuff about it than like a regular person would, right? And again, maybe a little bit off topic, but I'm pretty sure us using these devices, which are phones, is frying our brains.
Oh, so those are the conspiracy theories you're into.
No, I mean conspiracy theories. Like
Do you
these
know
things are ruining our attention spans and blah blah
do you
blah.
know about
Probably
the
why I'm half brained at these days. You know what I'm saying?
do you
Like
know about the 5G in
I
the
need to read
towers?
more books, is what I'm trying to say.
Have
Huh?
you heard about the 5G in the towers?
Okay, bro.
So what I actually do, because I agree with what you're saying, is I put on a tinfoil hat when I leave the house, and it means that the government, when they try and invade my brain with their rays, it actually stops them from being able to compromise me.
Okay, buddy.
Have you tried Huawei as well?
Actually, I also make jokes or what?
Yeah, I don't think you're very good at them.
I'd rather not, because yeah.
Sorry, to go back to what you're genuinely talking about. To be fair, I
Mhm.
was very nice to you in the previous topic. I have to go back to taking the piss a little bit. You're talking about attention span being eroded. It's quite interesting to me. And look how quickly I get back to being serious, chat, by the way. This is a real professional right here. You talked about in school, it's quite interesting. You have similarities to me in that I was also a performer in what I was very interested in. I'm actually currently undergoing the kind of understanding more about my brain and stuff like this. I want that's actually I'm not trying to overtly diagnose you or talk to you about it, but I wanted to kind of understand more about you because that's quite a common trait amongst people that have like difficulties with like their attention span and stuff like this. Is that something that you have? Like, do you have any attention-based difficulties? Because
Difficulty with attention span.
multitasking is also a problem with that as well.
Hmm. Multitasking, I guess, depends. I wouldn't say I'm the best at multitasking, but I can do depending on what it is. Some people, I think multitasking is just how your brain is made, you know? Some people are good at it, some people are not. I think when it comes to attention span, I definitely think it's probably worse than it used to be.
Hmm.
Like, for example, I don't know if it's normal that I watch every YouTube video at 2x. Like,
No, that's
genuinely,
really bad.
I watch every YouTube video at 2x. Like,
That's really, really bad, bro.
and I understand everything that is happening in the 2x, just to be aware, but you know, it's to be more time efficient. It's not even about not that I'm too impatient to watch 1x. It's about I just think I need to be more valuable with time. That's like kind of what I'm thinking to myself, and maybe I should stop. I don't
You need
know,
to start
but
following
I
some of
definitely
those
think
12-step program guys, you know, like the finance gurus who say like make your time work for you.
but yeah, I don't follow that. But
Neither do I. Don't make it sound like I do as well. That's really offensive.
I mean, I don't know if you're bringing it up, then you're probably following it.
No, I just know a lot
Why else
about
would you
I
know it?
just know a lot about a lot actually. So, that's just me,
Mhm.
multitasker. Um, but yeah, so you're saying that you have a lot of value for your time, because therefore you watch things on 2x. What are you consuming? Like, what does the diet of Nemesis's brain look like? What are you watching?
Listen, listen. We as humans are stupid. Okay, humans are very stupid creatures
Okay.
because here's one part of me that says my time is super valuable and I'm trying to like you know 2x the video. And then there's other part of me that probably wastes like 90% of my day. You know, like you know what I mean? Like every human has time, like has points in the day where you're kind of doing nothing with time. So we're being kind of like you have to understand that we have delusions as humans. We are very imperfect.
I'm kind
Anyway,
of
what do I watch in my free time?
Well, no,
Um,
we can go on to that in a second because I think just as a statement, that almost it doesn't sound. I get what your point is, but I want to extrapolate more so what the point is because that sounds like maybe the manifesto of someone who's an advocate for like genetic modification or like people having like cybernetic arms or something. You sound almost like the villain in like a futuristic film. So I kind of wanted to get what more so your point is. You're talking about humans' imperfections. What is the wider point there?
the wider point is to be aware, I guess, of these things.
Sure. And so therefore you're pushing yourself to constantly be gaining knowledge because you think naturally the humans are, especially in the way that society is constructed, I think we're naturally pushed away from knowledge, right?
I, I think I want to constantly gain knowledge because it is like, mm, how do I say it? Like I think it's like I don't know what word to use. Like it's just what I think humans should be like, maybe.
Interesting.
But at the same time, I just think the day I stop being me, like the day I stop losing the passion to learn, is the day I die.
Cool. It's interesting to see. I actually thought the only similarity you had in common with Victor was your voice, but it seems like in terms of ideology, you're quite similar as well.
Is that a joke? I don't understand.
Yes, and moving on. You spoke about earlier an interaction you had with Faker, although limited. I wondered if you could comment on that. Any conversations you'd had with him?
Wait, faker conversations?
Yeah,
Um, I mean, uh, okay, so I mean, a couple of faker conversations. There was one time I was with Alas together, and Alas was like talking with Faker about the game. I was just in the same room, listening to the convo, and then it was mostly Alas talking. That was like one experience, and another experience was
was he
like
speaking English or was he pretending to speak Korean? Okay, you got that one. You got that one. That's one. We got one, boys. We got one. Carry on. Carry on.
Okay, bro. Okay, so anyway, whatever. So there was one time I remember where Alice was like coaching me in stream, and apparently like Faker was watching the game. Later we got told, and he was like trying to see what we were doing, which was I think really cool. And then there was like some times where I was just like in cafeteria and I said like hello and stuff, and he was like way friendlier. Like it just shows you how humble he is, and yeah, what an amazing human he is. Honestly,
You sound like
it's kind of what I'm
you want to. Have you met him properly? Would you like to meet him?
met him properly. No, no, because I don't think like that's just straight up disrespectful in a way. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like I don't want to be one of those parasocial people that think that, you know, I get to get these things. Like
Wow.
you understand what I mean? Like
Yeah, no, it's almost like you think that you need to achieve more, maybe, before being worthy of his time. Would that be a fair way of saying it?
yeah, I guess I need to achieve like I might be playing League till 40. I don't know. I'm running out of time. No, I mean I get what you mean, and I just have so much respect for him
Hmm.
that I don't know. I feel like every normal person would have respect for someone great. You know, like do I really have to explain this? I feel like everybody
No, no, no,
understands.
no. It's very like cool to hear because it sounds like he is like your, not in like a weird way. He's like your idol in some ways.
I mean, of course he is. He should be the idol for like almost every league player. Honestly, if they're not idling Faker, then who else is there to idol? He's like the best one out there. Like he's just you're never gonna find another league player that's gonna be better than that. It won't exist.
It's fair. That's good.
Esports player even maybe. Like why am I even comparing it to league? I should say esports.
That's good. How did you feel about the fact that I've met him then? Because if it was disrespectful for you to meet him, do you think it's disrespectful that
Okay,
I
I
met him,
think
or?
you don't understand my point. It's
No,
not about
I'm joking.
yeah,
I'm
whatever.
joking. Come on, don't react like that, because then people are gonna think I'm being mean to you.
Oh, good. Let's move on.
I appreciate you, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm not dumping on you, man. I apologize. I understand how much he means to you, and I get it. I think it's really sweet. And we talked about previously about how he kind of informs um a lot of your kind of mentality towards life inside and out of game. I wanted to ask you, as an archetype of a player, what player you think you most resemble from current playing or maybe from history? If there was an archetype, is Nemesis similar to any player?
Nemesis similar to a player.
Yeah.
Hmm. I mean, it's like if you ask Nemesis from like season 1, my answer would probably be like Alex Siege, you know, back then, I would think. I think he was my idol back then, if I like remember correctly. If you ask Nemesis from like, I don't know, season 4 onwards or whatever, the answer would be Faker. And then in recent years also Chovy a bit, I guess.
And how much of that comes naturally to you, and how much of it is a kind of an embodiment, and how much of it is not copying, but in trying to embody them as people? How much do you think your natural instincts as a player gravitate towards those players, especially Chovy in recent years?
I think it's like all natural. Like if that makes sense. Like it's all natural, and that's why I connect to them so well.
That's interesting. And then we go into game theory. It's one of the things that's so interesting when you speak to people that kind of have the experience and pedigree of multiple esports, is they're able to like collate other theories outside of the game into it. So for example, you speak to anyone who's played Magic the Gathering, they can talk about how certain players are like blue players, red players, all of this. I know that you don't play that much Magic, but you're familiar with the concepts and whatnot.
Yeah.
My point being is you've mostly played League throughout your life, from what I understand. So the question can be a bit more difficult to answer. But what do you think are natural instincts that you bring to the game that meant you've ended up being the player that you are? I'll give you a really good anecdote that will help you answer this question. When I interviewed Bwippo for the first time a few years, he talked about how when he used to play Call of Duty back in the day, did you ever use the grenade launcher? They called it the noob tube back in the day. If you didn't play, basically the general concept is it's like a really cheesy thing that just kills people easily, and everyone hates everyone for using them. And him telling me that led me down the rabbit hole of being like, I found out that every game that Bwippo plays, he strives to be the most annoying player in the lobby every single time, which is why he plays this kind of chaotic TP bot, play weirdly kind of style. I wanted to ask you, throughout your life and kind of playing games, what habits did you develop through playing that led you to being the player that you are today?
It's a very tough question to answer
It's a
because
fucking good question, not to glaze myself, but
I mean, I'm probably not gonna remember a lot of them, right? But maybe it was something just playing against my brothers, because my brothers were also big like things that shaped my life, right? Like in the early days, and then also I don't know. I can give you an example. Like there was a player called Idra from StarCraft,
yeah, I
right?
remember him, Evil Geniuses.
And I used to like watch his rage compilations. I thought they were so fucking funny, right? Like I thought this is beautiful. This is art. Um, that's one I remember. Um, in recent years, okay, I'll give you like a recent one example. Like I don't know if you watch any Valorant, but I really like this
Yeah,
player called Demon One. There, he
I've heard you
like
talk.
won
I've
like
heard you talk about him. Yeah,
he won like worlds like on EG. I don't know, it was 2 years ago or whatever. He
yeah.
was like the villain of the scene. Uh, like I thought he has like such a cool personality. Like because it's like when I see something great, I usually see it for like 5 minutes and my mind is made up. Like if I see something spot on in 5 minutes, my mind is made and I just think this is great. And this is like a player. Like I had no idea about Valorant Pro Scene. I just watched like I watched like 4 different clips, and then one of them is this player. I'm just thinking like, wait, this is just art. Like this is just so inspiring. And I've had this feeling for so many players, like which is why I've advocated for so many league pros. Like a recent example a lot of people know is where I did a clip where I talk about Griffin, right? That's one. And then I've had so many players over the years, like Speaka, for example. I watched for 5 minutes before he was even on TSM, and I had a really good feeling about him. Or like Inspired. I played like the story with me and Inspired is I played one solo queue game in Challenger and I had this Inspired player in my team. And I thought he played so well. From that game alone, I just thought there's something about this guy. There's just some magic. There's just something around him that I can feel that is like special. And then after that he goes like LEC in a very short amount of time, and he is who he is today.
Did that not make the decision to potentially go to FlyQuest and play with him a bit more difficult?
Definitely, yeah. Definitely. Because I would like to play with him for sure.
What
I
made
feel
it?
like
What made
he's
that? What made that? Sorry, go on.
I mean, I just feel like I like him for a lot of things because first of all, like his blunt personality is like I think we need more of that in esports. If only people actually had personalities or said things. I respect people in esports who say things, what they think, even if they're wrong. At least they're saying things. It's better than not saying anything. I think like it's just so like that's why every time Inspired goes to an interview and just like bluntly like flames something, even if he's wrong, like I see this like like in a way, I have respect for that in a way.
Interesting. So, what made? What was the kind of? You've got this great gravitational pull pulling you towards America in the form of playing with Inspired. What stopped you?
I mean, what stopped me is the fact that it's NA.
Okay, moving on. That's pretty much said it all there. Uh,
I mean, it's
what
just
more can
that
you
I'm
say?
saying if this is an EU team, I would join, but it's NA team, and NA comes from with a lot of like disadvantages. Like I think it's just the days of being an NA play like pro playing in NA are so dead, compared to 5 years ago where people went to NA only for money.
That's fair
Does that
enough.
make sense?
Yeah, no, completely. I'm trying to figure out where I wanted to go from that. What we were talking about just now, we were talking about Inspired. Yes. Okay, cool. I did have somewhere I wanted to go. I remember now. But it's interesting. There's two places I want to go. I want to talk about your brothers, and I want to talk about first, and then I think we'll probably wrap because we're getting to around about 2 hours. I wanted to talk about, you talked about you like these players, Idra, you like Demon One. It runs quite counter to this idea of, oh, Faker is my idol, and I really respect how humble and kind of what a role model he is for the scene. It seems that to me you have these kind of these dual things, these dual forces that exist within you, which is on the one hand being intensely humble and all of these kind of different things.
Okay, so I get what Iber is going to go. So basically, I think if everybody would be like Faker, then
Sorry,
things would be boring.
let me finish my question. There's dual personalities that exist within you. One is this thing of like we need this humility. I love this kind of respect and be a humble competitor. And there's also this thing of like, oh, I quite like the idea of being the bad boy and raging and being this overt personality. And it also juxtaposes what your soul is and what you are in terms of your introversion and wearing your cards close to your sleeve and all the emotional topics that we talked about. So I wanted to talk about that war that exists within you.
Okay, so humans, at least what I think, humans love a good story. Okay, the story is very important when it comes to humans. And we need, like, it's beautiful that humans are different. Because if everybody would be the same, everything would get boring. That was one of my quotes that my teacher, when I was like 5th class in elementary school, I was like 12 years old. She said, quote unquote, well, Tim, if everyone in the world was Tim, the world would be quite boring. That's what she told me. Right? Because she was like being annoyed that she was having like issues with me because I was being like, more stubborn than other kids. And I was like, I
Is that what
was
you were like at
not
school? Were you quite stubborn?
I was stubborn to the teachers that deserved it. That was my mindset. Like if a teacher was doing a bad job, or if they were doing something that in my mind was just factually wrong, I will fight it. And I will not let go. If the teacher is doing something well, I will empower that. Like I will respect that, and I will work with that. That was my mindset. And anyway, to the point I'm trying to make is like, it's very good that we have a lot of these different personalities in esports, like Idra, for example, Rager, blah, 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 flaming people. Like, I think it's good that we have different things. And sometimes, like, a player is so different, and then people start hating because they think he's like over the line and stuff. And I don't know. I think we should respect it because it's art.
I never would have thought that I would get an appreciation about art and performance from you. I don't mean that in a patronizing way, but I suppose inevitably it will come across that way. But you have a great veneration for performance and almost the idea of what's the word in WWE? It's the idea of someone in chat will know what I'm talking about. What's the word? Kayfabe. Are you familiar with that concept?
No.
So in WWE is this thing called kayfabe, and it's the idea that real events adhere to fictionalized realities. So for example, it's the concept in WWE, if like Rey Mysterio gets married to like Vince McMahon's wife, that also happens in real life. Like they might get photographed at TMZ. It's the upkeep of like the fictionalization. And you seem to be weirdly one of the only advocates for this in esports. Do you think there needs to be more fictionalized kind of storytelling and drama? Not drama necessarily, but it feels like if it's a bit more. Do you think there should be a bit more WWE in esports? Is what I'm saying to you.
The problem is that I don't watch WWE and I have no knowledge about it, so it's like
Well,
so
I'm
hard
not.
for me
I'm
to
actually not.
imagine what
I'm
this
not.
question means.
I'm not 13 years old, so I actually don't watch it either. But I think you can conceptually wrap your head around it probably. Do you think there should be more elements of fictionalized, staged drama, kind of foil, strife, rivalry, stuff like this, in a way
I
that
don't know
people?
if it should be staged. I prefer when things are real and passionate. But at the same time, the problem is that a lot of
I'm
things
the same
cannot
way in
happen.
lovemaking, especially. But carry on.
How's that going for you? Okay.
Horrible.
So
That's a good one. Yes.
okay, so where was I going? So The problem is that, for example, a lot of the things that you were able to say 10 years ago, you cannot say nowadays. Or a lot of the things that would be cool 10 years ago would maybe not be cool today.
Cool. And let's be
So you
very
have to,
careful when we talk about this. I think you're more so referring to, correct me if I'm wrong, general. What's happened is a corporatization of language. You know, if you want to flame people, you want to say, "Hey,
yeah, for
you're a
example.
fucking moron," for example. That's not something that would be brand friendly on a socials account. We're not talking about
Yeah,
the pushback on certain language and stuff like that, because I think that is quite normally a proxy point for what you're talking about. I don't want people to misinterpret what you're saying.
yeah, I'm not like meaning some of
Yeah,
the really horrible stuff that
exactly.
happens today
But I'm
to
just
day,
making sure that people don't
obviously.
misinterpret you.
Yeah. I'm just saying that basically I like when things are real and passionate, and yeah, I don't know where I was going. Basically, we need more of that.
You like when things are real and passionate in regards to that. What I'm talking about with WWE is less that it's fictionalized. Everyone is kind of acting within the structure of this is real, and it adds to it. So, for example, like it would be quite cool for me to like the problem I had. This was a major problem. Do you remember the initiative they ran in the LCS? It was called Talk Your Split.
Okay,
It
maybe.
was a play on words about talk your shit, but it was talk your split, and they did all of this kind of content where it was about rivalries that happen. The problem was when they corporatized it and commercialized this idea of rivalries between people, they, like you said, became very inauthentic and very unreal because it was almost just like, what can we find that people have issues? When what you actually need to do is create not create issues, but like water the seeds that where issues occur. If there is an issue, you water it and you allow it for it to happen. For example, an easy thing to do. You know what they do in UFC? If they see that a beef exists between two fighters, it's making them sit next to each other at the next fight that they're both going to be at. Then you know that something is going to happen. I'm not advocating for violence in esports because that's not what would happen. But you see what I mean. The point is which you need to water the seeds of some of these things rather than
You know what? You know what I think is cool? I think
yeah,
it's cool when a player doesn't handshake the other player.
yeah. I agree.
Yeah, but people have a problem with that. See what I mean?
I think that's completely fine. I think that there should be more.
But anyway, maybe like a different topic. But basically, I really appreciate the good trash talkers in League, or like just in general, because I think some people in the scene are forcing trash talk, and it's so bad that it makes me cringe. And now some
Who are
people
your
are
go all time trash talkers in league?
goat. You mean
Who are some of the best trash talkers in league?
trash talk? For example, Gumayushi, I think does it so well. I think he's a complete natural. Like for me, he's like so good at it. Um, I don't know, Forgiven. He was always funny.
Forgiven has some of the best quotes about league ever. He's got you're either good at league or you suck a cock. He's got some
Doublelift was good.
yeah.
Wunder was good.
Imp was good if you remember Imp back in the day.
Yeah,
Do you remember the
yeah, he
thing that
was good.
Imp said they did? They used to do these amazing. They need to do these in the West. If any producers are watching this, they used to do this thing in LCK where it'd be like they would do interviews with players, but like the way that the editing magic of it is you ask questions that you know are going to get certain responses, and then you edit them back and forth. So it's not
Yeah,
misleading, but you end up
yeah,
like manufacturing responses, which is what I'm
yes.
talking about. It shows that mindset of you go back to the seeds. You're not trying to like create something. It's like if Talk Your Split had followed that, they would have got way better. There's famously a thing where they ask Imp and they ask him how like I'm misquoting it slightly, but it's like, how did you feel about beating SKT T1 in like the thing or whatever? And he's like, it was great. Didn't you see Piglet was crying? And it's like the most amazing quote because then it cuts to footage of Piglet crying, and it's just like amazing. Like stuff like that is so good. Like
Yeah, 100% agree.
cool. I think that pretty much takes us to entertainer. I wanted to bring us to last few things. You mentioned your brothers there and your relationship with your brothers growing up playing a lot of games. And we kind of talked about it in the last interview and stuff like that. And I know like family was a topic that came up as well. Has your relationship in any way changed with your brothers? Do you speak to them and kind of stuff like that? Because you obviously grew up playing games with them and whatnot. Do they have an influence on you now, even?
No, no, not really. I would say no, not really. Back then, for sure. Back then, we had like a lot of the, how do you say it, like friendly rivalry, right? Like in the house, right? We would
Because your
play like
brothers
games
are
towards each other.
how much older and how much younger?
I mean, one is like 2 years older, and then the other one's like I don't know, but it's like 9 years older, eight, something like that.
So you were always
10
you
maybe.
were always the youngest.
Yeah, but basically, okay, I'll tell you one story that I have from back in the day that
Sure.
like stuck into my head. I was playing a game called Supreme Commander. It's basically StarCraft, okay?
Mhm.
For the people that don't understand, it's basically StarCraft. And I was playing that game a lot with my brothers, right? And one time I went 1v1 against my oldest brother. And I remember I was like playing 1v1 against him, and he was like better at me than at the game, right? But I was constantly like, we didn't have mics, we weren't like connected to a Discord or something. We were just like talking loudly, and we would hear him. Like he was in this room right now, and I was like in the other room, and we were hearing through the hallway, right? And I was like constantly saying like, please don't attack me, please don't attack me, don't attack me, I'm still building, please don't attack me. I was just constantly saying that for like 15 minutes, okay? Because I was like being a little bit scared. But in the meantime, I actually like built it like a big robot. It's like a very powerful unit. And I sent
Oh,
one
you
to his
fucker.
base, okay?
You are such a
and
fucker.
and he managed, like the robot almost nearly wiped his base, okay? Like like he managed to defeat it, but his base was like almost ruined, right? And then he's like, as he finally kills the robot, and he's thinking like, okay, you know, this is it. He spent all his resources doing this. I actually had another one ready. I don't know how I was so ahead in that game because I was a worse player for sure. So then the second robot comes and destroys his base, and I win. And I start like laughing. He's full of rage. He comes into my room and just like punches me, like
Oh wow.
was that type of I don't know,
That
like
sounds immediately quite disturbing, but then I realised that I've gotten into physical
no, but
altercations all throughout
but
my
that was
life.
how it was back
Yeah,
then.
exactly.
Like
Yeah,
back
yeah.
then, that was normal. It wasn't anything I hold against him or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. I've
But
got
it's
into
just a
lots of.
memory that stuck into my head because I felt so proud beating him.
I remember I used to play FIFA, so a football game, against my little brother, and there used to be a thing where you could adjust people's settings before you played. So, for example, you could make it so that, like, say for me, for example, I've added all of my shot accuracy up to 100. So, like, from the
Hmm.
halfway line, I can press shoot, and it's gonna go top bins. I'm gonna score. I'm gonna score the most like inhuman goals. Whereas for him, I'm making it so like he's like running through quicksand. Like he looks like when you have a bad dream and you're like running through quicksand in the dream. That's how all his players run in the game. Can't shoot anything, whatnot. And then we go and play a game. And then we used to play, and I remember one time I beat him like maybe like 10-0 or something, and he got so angry he literally like went and like punched the door, and he punched. It was a door that was connected to like a glass, like glass in the middle, and he punched it so hard that he shattered the glass in the middle of it. and then he got punished by my dad because it cost a lot to replace it. So,
Yeah,
and I was laughing the entire time. So it goes to show you what kind of a older brother I was.
I really miss those times because I genuinely can't like remember the last time I felt genuine anger that I was able to when I was a kid. Because when I was a kid, when you were angry, I felt like you wanted to punch somebody,
You crash out.
But
You
nowadays,
could like
like
a proper
you
crash
just
out.
can't. I just can't feel anger. It's like so depressing.
Wow. So you don't have like for me, I still experience like anger, but you are right in a sense. Like when you're a kid, you can have like genuine like
Yeah,
just
like you
absurd
just
like
be.
yeah.
I just think when I remember back then, like, not just like compared to anger, but I feel like I was a lot sharper. That's how I would like describe it.
What do
Like
you mean by
my
sharper?
mind was my mind was like so much sharper. Like I would just. I think it made me a lot less open minded and a lot more set in my ways. But I was very sharp in what just imagine, I don't know how to describe it, like just imagine a robot that would just execute something to perfection, but he can only do one task instead of three. Right now I can do three, but I can't execute them as well. Like my mind was just so sharp. Like I don't that is like, how the way I compare it is a Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia is very sharp. Like, okay, this is brain that I'm comparing it to a League of Legends character, but Cassiopeia in the game is very sharp, like in terms
Yeah.
of how she kills somebody and what she can do, and she's very weak to the same to a lot of
Yeah,
things, right?
yeah, yeah.
And that's how I felt like I was back then. Like I was.
But it's interesting because throughout this interview, and it's nice. This is one of my favorite interviews because it's like it all ties together. You talked about all this development you've had in terms of being more in touch with emotions and stuff like that, but it sounds like you miss what it was like before. Is it a double-edged
100%.
is it a double-edged sword?
It is 100%. Like, if I could go back in time, it would be so cool if I could change some decisions in my life and then see how they would play out. Like, just for example, what if in 2021, instead of going to Korea to stream, I would go to Korea to join DonJake Academy? I truly do wonder.
Was that an option?
Yes, of course it was.
Well, the thing is, actually, their academy mid laner ended up on FlyQuest, so you probably would have had quite a similar life. Just would have depended
Yeah,
if you took the
that's
offer or not.
actually so funny. No, that is actually funny that you mentioned, because I thought about this like the other day.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait, FlyQuest. Oh, you're talking about Quad. Okay, I meant Queet. I was thinking about Queet, right? Because he was also DonJake Academy. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure, if I understand correctly.
I think maybe Quad was
If I remember
a
correctly.
streamer. I can't remember anyway. It was.
Yeah, he
Just,
was a Shimmer, and the other one was, I think, the Academy.
yeah.
Basically, I was thinking about it the other day. I was competing against Queet very regularly in solo queue, and I feel like I was going like toe to toe with him. Like, sometimes he got the better of me, sometimes I got the better of him. Like, we were pretty even in skill, right?
Hmm.
But now, years later, he's in this offseason in NA, and he's considered like the most valuable player out of like with Inspired together, right? And teams are battling for a big contract on him. It's just funny how, like, where things are years later from where things were. I do like think about this a lot sometimes.
But it is interesting to hear you say that you want to go back to this kind of sharpness. Is that because emotions are kind of just complicated for you? You kind of like they get in the way somewhat? Would that be fair to say?
I think it's because emotions are, in a way, a human's weakness.
Wow, now you're really starting to sound like a kind of a cybernetic future
I mean,
villain.
they are. I mean, they just are. Like, we as humans are imperfect. That is the problem. I have to constantly like think I have to constantly question myself. I think why is the best question you can ever pose to anything in life.
Absolutely, but I actually think in some ways emotions are our biggest strength, no? Because it's what
They
separates it.
are. I mean, they are definitely also a strength. Like, it goes both ways. It's a double-edged sword.
I remember there was a really famous debate that Jordan Peterson had with Slavoj Žižek, and don't worry, guys, I know what you're thinking in chat. He's a Jordan Peterson guy. No, I hate Jordan Peterson. I'm very much a fan of Slavoj Žižek, and they're having this argument about sets of rationality. And Jordan Peterson famously, his I think is like, 12 rules for life, tidy your bed, which none of us have followed today. You can tell we haven't read it. But his thing was he always talked about lobsters in terms of a hierarchy. He talks about how like hierarchies exist in the animal kingdom and whatnot. Slavoj Žižek has this great line when they're arguing with each other, and Peterson's trying to talk about lobster hierarchies and social hierarchies. Um, and then Žižek just basically says all of these theories you have on hierarchies are irrelevant because humans, like, there's an innate madness to humanity, and that's like the true beauty of it. So like all of this rationality in regards to hierarchies go out the window completely. So I think isn't that not the true beauty, that we are so immediately diverse by our ability to compute and compound function at the kind of the center of the CPU that is the brain.
It is, yeah. It is. This is what is art for me. Yeah.
You're very
Not use that word a lot, but
you're very confusing as like in what you're talking about here, because you're talking about it never at a point where I feel like you're contradicting yourself, but you're very much expansively pushing the corners of what I believe your general philosophy to be, and almost illuminating it with the kind of the torches of that which can't see at times. In
I
the
don't think I don't think there's like a right or wrong. There's just a lot of different ways you can go. It's how I see it.
like if someone in chat has just said it, and I do completely agree. Like if you read like Dostoevsky or something like that, I think like I could put you onto some literature that would change your mind, change your life, but you probably wouldn't read it. I think if you went and watched like
Maybe.
some Tarkovsky films and read some Dostoevsky, you would like come away and you'd just be a changed man. Like
I mean, I'm open-minded. You're mentioning these things. I don't know what they are. Like,
we're
I
gonna
don't
put
have
you
an
on.
opinion on them.
We're gonna put you on,
Hmm?
man. But no, what I'm talking about is there's such a kind of a binary matrix to you in terms of you're saying on the one hand emotions are weakness to some capacity, but then also like they compound the greatest form of human art and all of these different things that kind of they're at odds with each other, but they don't necessarily compromise each other. I wanted to wrap up the interview because I feel like this has been such an insight into who you are as a person, way far beyond the last time we spoke. Um, looking towards 2026, you're going to be competing in the LEC versus. Some general thoughts about it and the return, the prince that was promised, so to speak, and someone who's been such a question mark. You're bringing yourself into the light from the darkness and kind of the guessing game that is how good is Nemesis. Talk to me about 2026.
I think, okay, this might sound a little bit pessimistic, but I think whatever I say right now is irrelevant. I think it doesn't matter. But anyway, I'll answer your question. Like, um, yeah, I mean, how do I word it? Like, I'm just gonna go there and do my best, That's just the mindset I have. I don't really care about like all the noise that's gonna happen publicly or whatever, because it's gonna happen either way. Um, I don't really understand. I'm very aware of the situation that I'm in, and not just myself, but like this whole team is about. We're not equals to the other LEC teams. We're not even nearly in the same position as them. We're not. We are going up against odds that are not even close to being in favor to us. And whether we win or not is not really like my focus point. I just want to like kind of enjoy the whole journey and just do my best and then see what happens from there. Even if we are last place or first place, I think I'll treat it like the same way.
Interesting. And I guess as a final question to you before you leave is, so much of this interview has been about a mindset shift, and I feel like it would be remiss of me not to kind of tackle a tangible here. Are you a lot happier than you were a few years ago? Are you happy right now?
Happier? I mean, for sure. That's without a doubt, because like again, I mean I said this like a lot, right? The environment that I was in back then, I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. That's my honest feelings. I didn't like it. I don't. That's why, like since I left back then, I like what I told myself is like, okay, I'm never gonna go back. I'm never gonna make. I'm never gonna let that happen again to me, like ever. I will not be in that position ever again, because I have a choice. And yeah, I mean, we could go into so many different topics, but I'd rather not yap about
I'm
here.
sure we will another time. It's been absolutely wonderful
Yeah.
speaking to you. I'm happy to hear that you're happy, and I wish you all the best for 2026 sincerely. And it's been great speaking to you. Any final words you'd like to close with? Any messages to fans? Anyone you'd like to shout out?
Not really. I just hope people enjoy the interview and maybe mm, learn some things along the way, I guess.
I think they absolutely did.
Knowledge is power.
We'll end on that note. I'll let you go. Thank you so much.